Yeah. You may actually grab chairs here. That's good. It's okay, we need to sleep. All right, good evening, everyone. Thank you very much for being here. This is the Landmarks. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for being here. This is the Landmarks Committee of Manhattan Community Board 5. My name is Leila Logizico. I'm the chair. A few words about how the meeting is going to proceed. We have 5 applications tonight on the agenda. We have a very, very full agenda. Each applicant will have the opportunity to give a full and uninterrupted presentation. Following this presentation, members of the committee will have an opportunity to ask questions to the application. Following this question period, I will open up the floor to members of the public. Members of the public will have an opportunity to ask questions and make comments to the application. Applicants will have an opportunity to respond to those questions and comments, and then we will move to business session. During business session, only members of the committee are allowed to discuss the matter. During the business session, we will make comments on the application, and then a motion will be made. This motion will be taken to a vote. The vote of this committee will then be presented to the full board of Community Board 5, which meets the second Thursday in December. And the full board will discuss and vote on the recommendation of this committee. The vote of the full board becomes the official position of Community Board 5. So as I said, tonight we have a very full agenda, so we're going to try to move as thoroughly yet expeditiously as possible. A few things about how the meeting is running tonight. We are in a hybrid format, meaning that members of the committee are present in the room. Members of the public are joining us online, and we thank them for that. And applicants are actually joining us mostly in person with us. Some of the applicants' teams are also on remote online, joining us on Zoom so that they can share the presentation. So hopefully we're not going to experience any technical difficulties, and we'll be able to have a thorough review. The first item tonight on the agenda is 180 Fifth Avenue. This is an application to increase storefront to 12 feet to match neighboring stores. Remove existing bulkhead, remove framing, and install new seamless storefront glass. New frameless door with stainless steel hardware, new vinyl signage, and match and patch existing stucco. We have the team of applicants with us here, and if you want to actually come maybe closer to us, maybe you can squeeze in this little area, and hopefully those little owl cameras will do a good job of capturing your presentation. And I think that a member of your team is also joining us remotely, and he or she will be sharing the presentation online. This is your project. Fantastic. All right, so the floor is yours. If you want to introduce yourselves and introduce the project, we are listening.
Okay. Hi, I'm Shane. I'm a social justice project lead, part of the design team.
I'm Stephen Gill from the design team. Today what we want to present is 180 Fifth Avenue. We have it up on the board as well. What we have here is an existing storefront, used to be a T-Mobile store most recently, and we are changing that out to put in a full height glass storefront, seamless. We have samples of the parts. We are going to maintain the existing stucco exterior at the along the edges of the storefront. We are going to paint that the polar bear white number 75. And again, we have samples of the hardware that will be on. It's a choice between brushed steel and high gloss chrome. And the intention is to not interfere too much with the context of the streetscape. That's why we want to go with full height glass. It's the least obtrusive and the most efficient manner to treat this problem. So what we have is a proposal to maintain all of the crown above, which is currently still there and intact to some degree. And we're going to just finish off the edges. There is currently a board there where the T-Mobile sign used to be. We're gonna remove that and we're gonna continue to treat whatever damage was done by the installation of that board and that signage. We're going to fix that and then we're just going to carve out the opening. As it currently stands, there is a kickboard, the bulkhead at the bottom. We're going to go down straight to the ground. We're going to inset the doors to meet the DOB requirements of not projecting more than 18 inches out onto the sidewalk. And that setback will be about 1 foot 11 inches, so roughly about 2 feet. And there are no proposed roll down gates on the exterior, and the lighting schematic should not interfere with the line of sight for anyone, either drivers or pedestrians or people directly across the street.
Okay, thank you. Just tell us, what is the cross streets?
23rd and 22nd.
Okay, and this is on the west side
This is
of,
on the west side of
Fifth
Fifth
Avenue.
Avenue, yes.
okay, thank you. All right, let's jump right in and take questions on this proposal. Any questions from members of the committee? Brad?
So is there any work above that sort of second floor line happening, or is it all below, sort of like in the poster board that you have up in that bottom left-hand corner above that white frame? Is there anything happening above that, or is
No,
it stop at that?
Yeah, we're gonna stop. We don't want to touch the molding, the crown there. At the base of the second floor above the first floor.
And sorry to follow up.
Yeah.
So you're able to do everything without interrupting even sort of those, to call them sort of supports on either end, that you're doing, everything can happen?
Yeah, no, all of the
Without-
features, yeah, all of the features will remain intact as they are.
Okay. Suzanne?
Polar bear white, is that a historic color? And that's the color that was used on the building?
I believe we went through landmarks review and yes, I think that was accepted.
I think that would be helpful if you want to circulate the samples, and if you can also look at the hardware samples, that would be very helpful. Yes.
I
Tony.
just ask that everyone be careful with the samples. I don't want anyone to cut their hands, so treat us, keep them gingerly.
We will not hold you liable.
Thank you.
Tony?
Can you talk about signage? I see a rendering on the side there. Is it
So
going to be
signage,
applied to glass?
we intend to use vinyl stick-on the inside of the glass. There will be no lighting behind, no intentional lighting, just for signage. The signage letters will be the CPC required, no maximum of 12 inches in height, each letter. So yeah, the signage is basically, you'll be able to see it if you're looking directly at the store. But otherwise, it's gonna look like this. It's vinyl lettering behind the glass. Thank you.
And is that the name of the
Yes, that's the name of the new.
retail? Okay. And this is in scale,
Yes,
the signage?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah,
Zoom.
just to follow up to Bradley's question, the crown, that's not within your scope of your work, but that crown is in pretty bad shape.
You're correct about that. We're not, we don't want to touch it. We don't want to affect it, and we just want to maintain it. We don't really want to come near it. As you can see,
Yeah.
as he was asking these little I call them door knockers because they have a little reed.
Yeah.
We're gonna stay directly below it. All right, and there's another feature here, a pearl that we're not gonna affect as well. Currently, the way the stucco is set up, it's behind that, and so we're not gonna go beyond that.
Okay, and so the material that you're putting on top, this is stucco, right?
It is stucco, and what we're doing is restoring it.
So it is existing
It's
stucco
existing stucco.
and you're restoring the
Yes.
existing stucco,
Right.
okay. Okay. other questions? Yeah, Barbara.
So this is the hardware?
We're choosing between the brushed steel and the chrome.
Okay,
I guess the decision will be the clients, the business owner at the end, but we think we're gonna be going with the high gloss chrome.
Okay,
okay.
Suzanne,
How does this door open? And what is the lighting for the signage? Or is there lighting in the evening as well as?
Well, the lighting from inside the store will obviously illuminate the glass and the signage.
Okay, So
There's
there's no
no direct lighting for the signage.
Okay.
This will be all indirect lighting. And the storefront is gonna look something like this. Currently, this is the line we're holding within the stucco, a few inches behind the stucco, and then we're coming back in order to meet the requirement for not projecting more than 18 inches out beyond the building line. So the door will have a setback of about 2 feet.
Mhm.
And when you open them, they open outwards by
Open
code.
outwards.
You have to open outwards, yeah.
Okay.
So, but we cannot project more than 18 inches, so that's the reason for that setback.
I actually don't understand what you mean by we can't project more than
The
18.
building code, New York City Building Code requires that any door opening from to the street not project more than 18 inches beyond the building line.
Oh, I
Yeah, because
see.
if every door opened up the full 3 feet, people would crash into the doors.
Got it. Okay. Makes sense. Okay. Yeah, Barbara.
And the doors are ADA compliant?
Yes, they are.
Okay. And so, but basically they are, percolite doors.
Yes.
No frame.
No frame,
Okay.
just, yeah.
Okay.
And all the seams between the glass, anywhere we have seams is gonna be clear silicone.
Okay.
Be invisible.
So
Okay.
but glazed or?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Brad.
I don't see it in your rendering, but is there anything planned on attaching to that plaster, like security cameras, intercoms, anything going in that plaster, or is it gonna be remain kind of
There is
clean?
there's no, currently at the moment, we have no plans for that. Usually what you would put there, maybe on the side and maybe in this little edge is a key for the roll down gate if it's on the inside. Right? When you come to open the store, you turn the key, the gate comes up and then you can open your doors. But currently we don't have any plans for a roll down gate and there's no need for any electrical element on the outside. Business is open, the doors will be open when they can be, and when they're not, you can pull them open.
So there'll be no wiring in
No
that,
wiring, no-
except for the gate.
Yeah, if there's a gate. At this point, we're not talking about a gate. I don't think the client is interested in a gate at all. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
It's going on full faith that no one will break the glass.
And, what about a bracket sign?
No, we're not putting any bracket signs. The signage, all the signage that we will have is exactly what you see. We're not putting out any sandwich board. We're not putting- Right.
Okay. Okay. Mike.
Yeah, are there any file photos from 1940 or before the tax photos showing what the frontage of this building looked like? In other words, was there always a border on the base, 2 feet or whatever?
To the best of our knowledge, there's always been a border here. I
So what we're
believe-
doing is going down past the border when we extend those vertical columns?
Yeah, well, essentially right now, behind this board, there's really nothing, there's no transom there. And what we're going to do, and the reason we're going through all of this exercise is to mimic the neighboring storefront will require us to build out and, we'd have to get approval for whatever that element would be. And it's actually a bit prohibitive, especially since there's nothing there now. If there had been anything there in the past, which I'm sure there was at some point, it's been eliminated. So we've spoken to Landmarks at length about this and we've done our probes and we found that the only thing that's there, this is not, the signage is above another board. And everything beyond that is just open. And I believe they had some kind of air conditioning system.
Yeah, and also roll down gate behind it.
Yeah, and there was a roll down gate bar behind it. So all of the original features have been eliminated.
Okay.
So we don't know, to answer my question, what existed prior to this?
No, we don't. I mean, we assume that there was, it matched this. to some extent.
And we don't even know how old that one is.
Right. And then I
Well,
think
this
new.
is,
I think-
this is not original.
Yeah, I don't think that's original.
Okay, okay. Other questions? Okay, so before I open up the floor to members of the public and before we move into business session, I just want to make a comment, you know, a little bit out of order, but just want to make it clear that our guidelines and recommendations always in historic districts is that we actually don't support and favor frameless glass and doors and so I just want to bring it up now and see, and then that would be the question to you. Would you consider and would the client consider actually doing more of a typical type of retail entrance that you see actually in some of the examples that you have chosen with a frame for
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, we've discussed it, and I don't know that we've gone ahead and priced that out to propose it to the client, but obviously, we could consider it, I guess. I would lean towards these glass fronts. We have a few of them. I know that they're not in the examples, but I'm from 15th Street and 6th Avenue, so I'm constant. This is my neighborhood. There are a lot of glass storefronts. We've seen a lot of them go full height to the bottom of the million, and it's the least obtrusive design in a landmark neighborhood to just go with the glass. Because if you cannot replicate what was there before, for whatever the reasons might be, but be they financial or logistic, this is the least obtrusive of all the designs. And that's why I think a lot of people lean towards it.
Yeah,
It's not the least expensive, but it's.
Actually, the frameless option is not cheap.
Yeah,
It's not cheap. I think that the cost issue is not really in question here. In the Ladies Mile Historic District, typically LPC discourages frameless doors. This board is of the same view, and I think it would go a long way in getting this committee to support the proposal if you would consider changing this element of your proposal.
Okay. Basically, the strength of our presentation is in creating a more contextual and seamless row of storefronts. And again, the all glass has been a solution in the past. And we feel strongly that the client also feels strongly that they really would like that. But yes, obviously you want to do everything you can to make it contextual and even if possible, restore what was once there, if that can be found. But again, we don't want to interfere. We also don't want to stand out, in an obnoxious way. And, these sort of solutions have worked down in Soho and worked down in the cast iron district and worked down here in the Ladies Mile. There are a few storefronts that are full height glass, with much uglier surroundings. I know on 23rd Street, 7th Avenue is a building on the corner.
This is not in the Ladies
Yeah.
Mile.
Yeah,
Not in the Ladies Mile. So, we're only looking at, and we can only comment and LPC can only regulate what is in historic districts. There are, lots of
right.
parts of the city that are not landmarked, and we may or may not object to what is there. But in the Ladies Mile, it's really, the type of door entrance, fenestration is usually a framed type. And to my colleague Mike's point, the historic photographs exist for this property.
Yes.
So you would be able to find your design cues
Right.
so that you can work from that. which, you don't have to replicate, but, certainly using it as an inspiration.
Come as
Is
close to the
is usually
conceptual
what
nature.
applicants choose to do. Okay, I don't want to belabor the point. Yeah.
Can I ask
Sachi.
another question?
Of course,
Personal
yeah, of
questions?
course.
Is it, I guess, is this topic about the framing versus whole window, is that something that y'all have discussed with LPC?
Yes. So our presentation was based on probes. Obviously, like we said before, everything that was there had been eliminated at some point. And again, it's not an inexpensive solution, but we feel that the best solution for the context of the streetscape is just to go full height glass. I know that Restoration Hardware used to be across the street. The cast iron building is the flat iron building is right across the street. So there are a lot of architectural features, but these buildings, the deli, the Eisner Deli, and all of the others mostly have their original storefronts, but some of them don't, and some of them are really more post 1960s, 1970s vinyl panels with the runners in between. And this is what this storefront was. It was it's basically, if you look at the original right now, it's just a panel. You've got the two sides with the stucco
Yeah.
columns, and then you have these aluminum doors and storefront with a deeper setback, which is a problem when it was vacant, like the vagrants and stuff like that. But so what we wanted to do was just clean it up and make it, one panel, sort of visually, just one panel of glass, and it doesn't stand out and project itself.
Okay.
Can I ask a follow-up?
Sure.
Did LPC bring up any concerns with the lack of frame?
We spoke about the framing, but that was sort of cast aside, and we went forward with this design, and they were okay with it. And we're coming to this meeting basically after we've had our LPC review.
Okay, so just to make it very clear, you've been speaking to the staff at LPC.
Right.
And the staff at LPC cannot tell you what to design and what
Right.
to do.
Right.
If you want to get approved at staff level, I don't know that would ever be approved at staff level, but let's say you want to do a minor work that can be approved at staff level, then the staff can tell you what this design needs to be. You need to use this color, you need to use that kind of paint, you need to, cover the brick with that kind of material. That they're at liberty to tell you to do, because they know they have a set of guidelines that they can basically work off to issue the permit. Anything that is discretionary, the staff deliberately cannot tell you what you can do or can't do, because they're not there to tell you how to design your project. They can guide you. They can tell you that, the commission is going to want a certain type of information, do your probes, bring the tax photo, figure out what was the historic color, bring samples. That they can do. But once it is at the level of a certificate of appropriateness, the staff cannot issue it. It is the commission, meaning, how many are there, 11 or 13 commissioners, and the staff cannot dictate or direct even what the applicants want to do. The applicant can file an application for anything they feel like, filing, and the staff cannot say, oh no, you can't do that. The staff can say it's very likely the commission is not going to like it, but the staff cannot give any more indication. So when you say that you're coming after the review by LPC,
Right, the staff.
you mean that you've had conversations with the staff.
Right.
The next step is that you're coming to us, and then we will issue our recommendations. Then you will go to a hearing where the commissioners are going to look at your proposal, and they are the ones who have final say. So I just want to frame it a little bit in, the sense that at this particular juncture, when the applicants are in front of us, the staff almost has a duty not to give much in terms of, well, yes, you can do this, or no, you can't do that. the staff can guide a little bit. The staff can say, well, you will be more likely to get approved because, this fall within the guidelines that the commission usually follows. But, at this particular point, it is a discretionary review, and the commissioners have the final say, and the staff cannot, step in and take this prerogative away.
That's correct.
So, okay, all right. Any other questions? Any follow-up, Sachi? Was that okay, good. Any other questions? Okay, so let's move to the public session. Are there any comments and questions from members of the public? Anyone with the public who wants to raise their hands? Okay, so seeing none, we can move to business session. During business session, only members of the committee discuss the issue in front of us. Comments? Barbara?
I am somewhat uncomfortable with the look of the storefront. It seems very jarring. And I next to what could have been there, or it seems a little, at least based on what you show, it feels like an outlier.
We're in business
Yeah.
session. Direct comments.
Okay. It feels like a bit of an outlier, and then the comment that the shiny material for the hardware is preferred, that also sort of accentuates it not fitting in and not sort of being an understated opening for this building. I mean, I think that it's a small building, but it still adds to the whole character of the streetscape. And so I am not comfortable with the direction. I'd be more comfortable with the direction as we usually take, which is that no frameless doors. And I'm not suggesting that no A-frame door, no frameless.
Yeah.
And that it would, I'm not saying that it should be some historic absolute replica, but something that's a little sort of meets it, I would say a little more halfway.
Yeah.
That would be
Yeah.
something I'd be.
So something that is worth noting is that, if you put this application through the matrix very clearly says that, that you get like the worst possible score for a frameless door in a historic district or on a historic building. So I think that, that this is really a big feeling for me. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, Eisenberg's is just 2 doors down.
Was.
No, it's there.
no more.
It's
Hasn't been there for a year. Take a look.
It's a different name.
We,
No, it's not a-
let's not go all
Yeah.
out of turn this, hey,
It's,
we are,
yeah.
Zool has the floor.
it's
Thank you.
an updated storefront, but it remains a frame door.
Yes. Yeah, no, very clearly, maybe, some buildings that are outside of the boundaries of the Ladies Mile have, different design for their doors, but, definitely in the Ladies Mile, anything that has been, recently, considered by LTC, let's say, within the last, 10, 15 years, is frame doors. Suzanne,
I was just gonna compliment you guys and your efforts.
we are
and
in business
to
session.
try to, but I think it's a great idea that they tried to clean it. And I can imagine all the chaos that goes on in front of this charming building. So I think that I love the seamlessness of it and the lack of neon and all the many things that we've seen. However, given this situation, unfortunately, and I totally agree with Barbara, that I think some kind of hybrid solution has to be made, but I appreciate the applicant's effort in
Yes.
trying to keep it clean and modern and elegant like the building.
Yes, yeah, no, that's certainly a vast improvement
Yes, indeed.
compared to
Yeah.
what exists today. Yeah, Tony.
Agree, definitely an improvement of what was there. I would have loved to have seen something go a little bit more historic or
Yeah.
original. The one photo I was able to find online, it does look like there were some transoms and all that, like we do typically see. The storefront bump outs, cast iron frontage probably. The neighboring one, even though it's not original, they did a pretty decent attempt at trying to mimic that. At the very least, I guess I'm surprised that, you know, there wasn't not much more of a further attempt to match at least the neighbor. More of a master plan kind of
Yeah.
concept. If it's
Yeah.
not perfect, it's getting closer to what that store really was.
Yeah.
My other concern, and the doors are a concern for me as well. My other concern is being all glass. I am concerned about the type of lighting inside. If we think to like the harsh fluorescence, something like that, just an entire wall of that coming out on the sidewalk, I think would be pretty intrusive too.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay, so we're getting a sense of where this is going, you know, just for the sake of time, we don't want to belabor when there's no need. I just want to, you know, take the liberty to step out of order again and address the applicant. You know, I think that really the framing and the choice of material for the hardware are, you know, key issues for this committee. It looked like we're going to go with a denial, but if you feel that the client for this project would be agreeable to actually revising the design and would be agreeable to a framed, you know, door and storefront and the brushed finished hardware, I think, and you know, that the committee has to, you know, agree to that. I don't even know totally that, you know, this is something they would be agreeable to, but I'm getting the sense that, you know, that would probably put us more on the side of an approval. Is it something that you think you could consult with the client and get back to us, you know, within the next 3-4 days?
If it's okay to speak, yes. So to the brushed steel, I have been leaning more towards the brushed steel with the client, and I believe that the client is amenable to the brushed steel. Is our samples have the high gloss, and you know that catches the eye. So obviously, it looks attractive, and that's what they were going towards. But from initial, we've been talking about brushed steel also for the door handles. And as far as the lighting goes, it's one of our lighting design requirements that none of the lighting comes straight out to the street. All the lighting in the store will be soft lighting. We won't use harsh fluorescence. It's going to be soft LEDs leaning towards the yellow. We want to not
Okay,
do more than the
but
rest.
just to shift, you know, the issue is really the
We can
frame door
speak to the
and
client.
storefront.
We can speak to the client and see if there's some way to hybrid and look into that.
Okay, all right, so thank you so much. So moving back to business session. What I would like to suggest to the committee is that we issue a denial for all the reasons that have been expressed already, with the understanding that if the applicant comes back to us in a timely fashion, and the good news is that we are kind of like far away from the full board, so that gives us a little bit more time to actually work with the applicant. If the applicant comes back to us with a design that basically would incorporate framing of the door and the storefront, with all the elements that we have also discussed, that, you know, the lighting would be shining the other way, and that the hardware would be brushed steel rather than shiny, then we would turn that into a straight up approval. Right,
Is there a reason we wouldn't just do a deny unless?
because it gives us more power to negotiate. And, you know, this is something so that, you know, there's a little bit more urgency for the applicant to really, you know, work on it.
Sure.
Is it something that the committee feels comfortable with? Yeah,
I'm just curious, how will that work procedurally? Would the whole committee meet again to
No,
review the
and
changes?
very good question. And this is something that we have done in the past. We try not to do it because, you know, we certainly don't want procedurally to be in a bad situation, but I really feel that we're very close to, you know, a common design that everybody can agree on, and I don't want to miss out on the opportunity. If we were to say it's a deny unless, then they don't really have to come back to us. And, you know, it's, if we work with the applicant, they would basically revise the design, file
design with LPC. And that would, and basically we would have to all agree in good faith what a framed door and storefront looks like. And I think we all would know it if we see it. It's a very simple design element that doesn't have too much room for interpretation. And then if this is what we see in the design and what they file with LPC, then what we would present on full board night would be an approval.
So just to be clear, so we're delegating, I don't think I have an objection to, we're delegating to you as the chair of the authority to make that decision.
No,
for the committee.
well, in the end, I'm the chair of the committee, so in
So-
fine, yes,
So the rest of
but
us
you
won't
will,
see it.
no, everybody will see it. I will circulate the design and we will all say, okay, yes, it looks like a frame door and a frame storefront and we're good to go. But yes, you will absolutely see it. I will share, the applicant will share with the board office, which in turn will share with the entire committee.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to belabor it, and that will happen after tonight and before the full board meeting.
Yeah.
So at some point by email,
Yes,
we'll
absolutely,
see, the committee will see the design
absolutely.
and the committee will vote, or what,
No.
how will that?
The committee will say, indeed, it is, what we agreed, and, unless someone objects, and then, we will probably then say that, it's, there has to be consensus. Once again, it's a design element that is very straightforward, which is why I feel comfortable that we can go this route.
Okay, thank you.
Is that, are you on board with it?
I'm comfortable if everyone else is. I think a frame is not necessarily a frame, and there are gonna be many opinions about what a frame is, and so we're kind of leaving that up in the air, but if the committee's comfortable with that, I'm not gonna object to it.
And by timely fashion, do we mean before the board meeting or the executive committee?
Before the board meeting. Which is consistent with, SLAP negotiates until the bitter end, at times it, like an hour before the full board, this is when they get their stipulations in, and I think we will, be consistent with that. Everybody is good, yeah, Sachi.
Okay.
Oh,
So
yeah.
just one clarification, so in effect, one person on this committee could veto it and that changes it, I think.
No,
You said
no,
by
no, no,
consensus,
no, no,
what does
no.
consensus mean?
Consensus is we're gonna try to get everybody on board.
Right, so if
Yeah.
one person objects, what happens, my question?
If one person objects, okay, so you're giving me second thought. So I think, let's say that it's not such a good idea. So,
Is there an objection?
it's, well, we don't know. We
I'm
don't
not
know, but
objecting to it, I'm just,
no,
understand the
but
process.
you're raising an important point. It is possible that someone would object. I'm just hoping that in that particular instance, it's a very minor application. And we know what a frame looks like. We know what a frame door and a frame storefront looks like. And we agree that, it doesn't have to be a replica. And that, something that would be consistent with what we see in this particular district, without any specification for, the width of the frame, the color, but, something that is consistent with what exists in the district, and once again, in good faith with, working with the applicant, would satisfy our requirement. If someone objects, then we would revert back to a denial. Is everybody on board trying this?
Yeah.
I know that we don't do that too often, but for this one, it's so minor, and that, I feel we would be much more effective if we can actually send an approval to something that we can all agree and live with, rather than, a deny unless that then, is gonna get LPC confused and, so, okay, so we're good.
Yeah.
So we are, going to make a motion for denial with the understanding that, if you were to come back to us with a revised design that then gets filed with LPC, it's not just showing us the design, but it's also, filing this design with LPC. then that would be presented as an approval of your application. And the two critical elements are the hardware, brushed finish, and the framing of the door and the storefront.
Right.
Okay, everybody is good?
Mhm.
All right, so we need someone to make this motion that I just,
Motion
This
to
one.
deny.
and we need a second.
No second.
Okay, awesome.
Okay.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you so much, everyone.
All right,
All right, let's take this to a vote.
Frizz,
Yes.
Peter,
Yes.
Peter,
Oh, hater, not
Yes.
hater. Sorry.
Harris.
Yeah.
Hirschberg,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Quebec,
Yes.
Logisico,
Yes.
Miller,
Yes.
and myself, I'm a yes. Spandorf,
Yes,
Stanberg,
Yes.
Takahashi, Ryle,
yes.
Testa,
Yes.
Solkowitz.
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right, thank you so much. The next application is 222 Central Park South. Do we have the team of applicants? Hi, thank you so much. If you can, try to squeeze-
share the screen if we're on the Zoom.
Yes, are you on the, are you?
Yes.
through as.
Fantastic, and so you're connected, you have the Wi-Fi access,
Yeah,
and you should be able
Are
to.
you one of the names up here, or do you need to be?
Ashley.
Okay.
That's me.
So I'm
Jesse
Jesse Scrivon with CNR Group. This is my colleague Ashley. And we are here to discuss the proposed window replacement of this historical building, 222 Central Park South, designated landmark, very prominent building, beautiful facade. The building has suffered during the construction next door and erection of the super tower at 220. So originally we were retained by our clients from the apartment 1032 on the 8th floor to evaluate the deteriorated condition of the window. This is somewhat of a building-wide issue. There is numerous glass panes that have been cracked. It's somewhat unsafe, so we came in to evaluate the window, and in the process, we also determined that there is a pretty severe deterioration of the steel frame of that existing window. So actually, if you have, I can handle the board, and maybe you can put on the screen some of the photos of the existing conditions. So this is a very simple steel frame with a single glazing. And because all the panes are fixed glass, we don't really have access to the exterior, and we are on the 8th floor. But we could see through the glass that the exterior glass stuffs have also severely deteriorated. You can see that gap on this on that photo where the exterior stop, the corrosion has kind of caused some separation, and this is becoming an issue with further moisture infiltration and eventually structural instability of that frame. So after that initial review, we concluded that really the right way to approach this is to replace the window. Now, replacing the window, we're obviously cognizant of the fact that this is historical building, and there is a couple of challenges that we face. A, we want to be as close to the historical details as possible. B, we want to improve the engineering of this window. So we would replace the single glazing with insulating glass to have better energy efficiency and prevent condensation in the winter. And at the same time, we would like to introduce a thermally broken steel frame for the same reason, because right now the apartment does have humidification. There is a condensation issue, which this being a double height space, there is no easy access to that window. So as the clients are very keen on, if we're going through the trouble of replacing the window, let's make it as kind of up to date in terms of technology and thermal efficiency, right? So based on that, we came up with a design that is a fully custom fabricated unit. The additional challenge is the fact that on our floor, we have this triangulation, which does not exist on some of the lower floors, but it exists here, and a couple of floors have these little triangular dormer-like portals. And so, again, the custom window would accommodate all these conditions. And we've looked at the original historical window, and the difference between what exists currently and what was historically in there is those outer bays were originally double hung units. But they were double hung units constructed in a very sort of rudimentary way, with, again, using single glazing and non-thermally broken frames, which is evident in this comparison of details. So going with the insulating glass, we are forced to increase the width of the steel glass stub slightly to accommodate the spacer within the glass. But we were able to come very close to those original dimensions. So we can walk you through these sections here in the critical areas of this window. So if we look at the section A, which is the head condition, we're going from the original 1-inch frame to 1.25 inches. Again, that allows us to accommodate the insulating glass. On the inside, you can see that we're using, as a glass stub, we're using polymer material, which is, thermally insulating, and then we're cladding it with a painted steel to still have the steel appearance from the inside, but we're introducing that thermal break internally. The glass is tempered over laminated, so we achieving some thermal efficiency as well as safety glass and as well as some acoustical separation. If you flip to the next detail, so on the section B, which is the head where we have where we kind of matching the fixed glass condition on both of those units. Again, we're going from 1 inch to 1.25 inches. Then the C condition, which is where originally existed the double hang unit. And in our proposed solution, we actually proposing a fixed glass with a simulated mounting at the level where the meeting rails existed. Again, the logic here being that any modern window with insulating glass and thermally broken frame, if we were to do a double hung unit, the combined frame dimension would really be something closer to, this is aluminum, and in steel, we probably would not even be able to get that kind of dimension. So we would be close to 3 to 4 inches with that combined dimension. So in addition, the clients are really not interested in making these flanking units operable. The window is at the upper level of the double height space. So any air infiltration, any sort of deterioration of the gasketing would be hard to detect, and the existing one is all fixed glass. So what we've proposed here is a fixed unit. And if you look at that C section, so on the perimeter, meeting the masonry, we had a combined dimension of 2 3/4, and our window is 3 1/4. So we're about 1/2 inch greater on that side. And then where we have the vertical divider between the double hang window, original double hang, and the next fixed glass, the original dimension was 2 inches, and we are now 1.5 inches, basically matching our 1.5 inch module at all the other bays. And then lastly, on the D section, which is where the meeting styles existed. Again, the left image shows the original double hang window with a single glazed unit and non-thermally broken frame with a combined dimension of 1.8 inch, that horizontal line. We've proposed a fixed simulated mountain at that level at 1.5 inch, which is somewhat arbitrary. So we just, again, we match the vertical dimension. Since our vertical dimension increased slightly to what was original, we figured we would match the horizontal to that. And so overall, we believe that with this solution, we're actually very close to that historical appearance, given the fact that we're up on the 8th floor. We believe from the aesthetics point, we're pretty true to the historical appearance. And then we meeting all these objectives to modernize the window and bring it up to modern standards and give the client what they desire, and also obviously alleviate the current conditions with the window somewhat deteriorated and unsafe. We have also attached the full shop drawing from the custom fabricator, Armadillo Metalworks, which is a local company in New Jersey, specializing in custom metalwork. So they've surveyed the site, and based on discussions with the glass suppliers and what are those minimal dimensions to allow us to accommodate the spacer of the insulating glass, that's how we arrived at these new dimensions. We are matching the historical paint, which Landmark has approved for other window replacement in the building. So that is sort of a given. We also using zinc rich primer as the sort of corrosion proof undercoat. Then we painting it with the historical paint. The sealant colors have been also submitted to Landmarks, and it again matches a previously approved window that was replaced in the building. So that's pretty much the overview of the scope of work, what we are trying to achieve. I think what we are requesting is that the deviation from that original functionality and having the double hung operable unit to the fixed unit with simulated mounting be approved, and that's what brings us in front of you.
Thank you very much for a quite fascinating and interesting, thorough presentation. Let's jump right in. Any questions? Yeah, go ahead.
Can you go to the section detail from the shop drawing? Sure. The attachment to mostly the head, because it looks like the sill is new construction, is that into existing material, that head attachment?
Where you see the anchor
Yeah.
being drilled in, yes. Yes, that's existing masonry.
It's existing masonry that you're drilling new holes for all of that?
Correct.
Correct.
Yes.
Okay, and are there any joint lines that you can be using, or is that going to be going sort of wherever it lands?
Say again?
When it's attached up in, is it going in like joints in the masonry, or is it going straight into the existing masonry?
No, I think we're drilling to solid masonry.
Just to clarify, but this is on the inside.
No, it's on the, oh yes, this is on the inside. That attachment is on the inside. Yes.
Okay,
Yes,
And-
so what you see is that angled frame, right, extends to the inside, and we are attaching it to the inside. We're not attaching it to the facing masonry on the outside. That's,
got it. So the vertical line that you're seeing in the left where it says existing stone facade, is that vertical line the same vertical line that I'm seeing on the right
yes,
detail? Okay, so
Yes.
it's entirely interior.
yes, it's entirely interior.
Okay.
Yes, we're not penetrating the exterior facade, so nothing that is exposed to the elements is being drilled.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I actually have a question. You spoke at length about the frame for the sides and the upper portion of the frame. You didn't touch at all on this.
Oh, on the triangulation?
Yeah,
Well, we don't really have these historical details were taken from another landmark filing for a lower level
yeah,
on the 4th floor where that triangulation does not exist, right?
Yeah.
So here we just basically matching the same dimension that we have here on the flat section. And we're just turning it up
So are you making any changes to the dimension of this part of the frame of the window?
no,
No, it's
No.
exactly the
No.
same as existing.
Correct.
Okay,
correct.
yeah, Suzanne.
So is this simulated window, I mean, overall, it seems like this has come to us before, this
Mhm.
building, these windows situation, and, not an easy job. So, is there a master plan overall for the building, and has the simulated window been done before, to your knowledge?
So currently there is no master plan.
Okay.
There has been a replacement on the 4th floor,
Mhm.
and we've included it as a reference
Mhm.
where what was proposed and approved was a casement window at these sort of.
I remember.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I remember that.
Casement, and that casement had a simulated.
It did.
Yeah, middle part, right?
Yeah.
So it was
Okay.
operable. It still has a wider profiles, which you can see here in this photo.
Yeah, this is the new unit on the fourth floor.
That's right. That's the photograph of the 4th floor
Okay.
apartment. So the horizontal line is a simulated
Oh, it's a little.
Yeah.
applied mountain, and it's a full height casement window.
Which is why those two lines are much thicker.
The vertical
Yeah,
lines
and-
are much thicker.
And
Now,
this,
this particular window does not offer thermally broken frame. So again, it's not quite meeting our objectives. It wouldn't
Yeah.
quite meet our objectives.
Yeah.
And the glass that it accommodates is 1 inch. Our glass is 1 3/16, which allows us to add this sort of laminated glass for additional safety and acoustical separation.
Mhm.
And again, I'm not sure what the situation is here, but our window is, up in the air at 10-foot height, so nobody can access
Can I-
those operable units.
Yeah.
Can I add just to that? So with regards to, and I really don't know the answer, obviously, the lamination and so, but does that affect, I live in this area, does that affect the sort of overall quality or sheen of these windows? Will that really stick out? Is it flatter? Is it duller? Just in terms of just what the glass looks like?
No, the
ratio?
interlayer is really great, has great clarity, and the laminated unit is on the interior.
Okay.
So the outer layer is a single layer of tempered glass,
Okay.
and then the interior layer of the double glazed unit is laminated. But there is no change in appearance.
Okay.
That
Okay.
interlayer is absolutely.
okay,
clear.
Barbara.
Given that the laminated glass is on the interior, what is the safety advantage?
So
of
the
this?
safety is, you have, the outer one is tempered,
Right.
right? And the inner one is laminated, so if that should break, it's laminated, heat strengthened. So what
Yeah.
happens is if that gets broken, the glass doesn't fall down on the occupants.
Oh, okay.
Because the inner layer sort of, it's kind of like the windshield of the car, right? If it shutters, it sort of has the spider web cracks, but it doesn't become airborne.
What is the likelihood of it?
We don't even,
Yeah.
we don't even want to discuss that. Other questions? Yeah, Peter,
Few comments and then questions.
we're in questions. We'll have an
Okay,
opportunity
but-
for comments afterwards.
Going from an inch to an inch and a quarter is inevitable. It's not good. It's like 150 pound person going to 190 pound person. It's in height, but it's inevitable. How many different replacement window types are there in the building, and does this match those replacement types in order to have a consistency in the building?
Well, yeah, I
Yeah.
think that ties to the,
So
yeah.
we know of the one on the second floor, on the fourth floor, which, yeah.
It's the second floor apartment
Yeah.
floor, so.
Yeah.
And that is that photo that we presented, where they basically dealt with it by introducing a casement operable window and simulated mountain in the middle. So, I am not sure if there was a desire for having a ventilation and having operable window, because it is accessible on our level. There is no accessibility to that window. It's up high.
You know, I think our prior resolution on window replacement for this building actually does what we called for a master plan. And, you know, unfortunately,
Yeah,
LPC is not really pushing for that. So we end up having this, you know, really.
Just if
piecemeal.
LPC is not pushing for that?
Correct.
Is that something that can be added to res of that?
Oh, we will very, very likely be consistent and, you know, continue to call for master plan. You know, it's such a significant building and, you know, the fenestration is so significant
Can
feature.
we, before voting on something like this, can we ask to see what the sections are of everything that's been changed so far? To see if we have a match?
Jesse, could I just add a point of clarification? So,
Can you introduce
yes,
yourself?
I'm
please?
Alex Cooley. I'm working with the architect on the replacement of the window.
Yeah.
And the specific intent with this replacement is to actually not match what's there, but to return what is there, which is not the historic condition, to something that is more akin to what was historically in the building. So the current window, which is being replaced, is not historic, and it actually does not have the double hung units, right? They're all fixed panes and it's a different profile. So we're actually looking at the historic profiles and trying to get closer to those with the hopes that, you know, anything that goes before the building, before LPC in the future will not be matching existing, but will be forced to comply with historic conditions.
Great.
Yeah. Plenty for comments. Other questions? Okay, so seeing none, I will open up the floor to members of the public. Do we have any questions or comments from members of the public? You can use the raise hand function to indicate that you wish to speak. Any comments or questions on this particular application from members of the public? Okay, so seeing none, let's move to business session. During business session, only members of the committee are allowed to discuss the matter. Comments, Peter?
It's one of the most beautiful buildings in all of New York. It's very prominent, and anything that we could possibly do to try to push again for a master plan is so important, because if one apartment tries to go and back to the original and everybody else is objecting and LPC has already approved this,
Yeah.
it's gonna end up being a mishmash of windows,
Yeah.
and that's, to me, that's the worst thing it could be.
Yeah, it's really tricky. So I think for this particular one, we're gonna have to look at those two issues. The first question that is in front of us is,
how do we feel about this particular application on its merits? And then how does that relate to the bigger, broader issue of, the entire fenestration of this facade and the desperate need for a master plan? If we were to consider that this is actually an agreeable way of replacing windows, do we feel that that could become the model for the master plan? Because the last time we reviewed the application, we basically said we were totally against the casement windows, and we hated the thickness of those two interior sides of those casement windows, and case in point, they look pretty bad. On this particular one, how do we feel? And if that were to do the master plan, is it something that this committee can support? And, I want to hear your thoughts on that, Peter.
Professionally in our office, we're doing window replacements all the time, and I'm sort of stunned that a building of this stature doesn't have a master plan, because all the great buildings along Central Park West and Fifth Avenue, everyone we go to say, this is what's approved. This is what everybody else is doing. If you want to change your windows, this is what you can do. And I'm shocked to hear an individual application on a building of this stature.
Yeah, no, it's this has been an issue. I mean, we've seen, this is the third time we've seen windows, for this building. So, trying to be, constructive and, maybe getting LPC to, a better place as they address this particular building. Let's make comments on the merits strictly of, of this window replacement, project.
I would approve this. I think that it's a very good direction, and I think that it lends itself to, it's very interesting to hear that you guys are backdating to make this as historic as possible. It updates the building in a thoughtful and historic way, and it enables, if it's a master plan for the building and the apartments within this building, to continue to be bought, rented, and so forth, and saves the life of this building that we love so much. So I would say that I would agree with this.
Barbara.
I also agree with it, although I have to just say, I really hate fake mullions. But I don't know if we approved it the last time or we didn't approve it, but I just say that as a caveat, that's the only thing I really dislike about it. But I think updating it for, better thermal insulation, all those things are very important for energy savings. And I think that the applicant tried very hard to be very sensitive to the existing details.
Yeah. Tony, and let's make sure that we all direct the comments this way, and we're in business session. Yeah.
So,
Tony.
the materials, the paint colors, all of that, I mean, I think they're doing a fantastic job, going through historical records and all this, the way everybody should be doing it. And with the fake mullion things, I think with this building, our biggest problem, seeing this over and over again, has been the mishmash of everything. Getting back to what the building should look like, even if they are faux, I think is more important. Because we've seen so much chaos in this building, and especially since they are higher up as well. So visually, it'll be more impactful whether or not I don't think people will see it. The only other factor is the functionality of the window itself being operable right now versus not. Again, for the use of that individual, it's not going to be usable because it's on a double height. And again, from the street level, from the outside, I don't think it'll be detectable,
Yeah, so the one thing I will say on that, it's totally a technicality, but this is the only reason this window is coming to us.
Yeah.
And it's the operational, it's the mechanism that makes it not a staff review, but so it's a special window. And the case could be made that, if it's not operable, then it doesn't have to come, or that the staff would have liberty to review it. So I don't think we have to get too worried about that at this particular juncture. But just important for our own identification. I think that energy efficiency is really important. And I think that, as a result, we see slightly larger framing, sometimes much larger framing. I feel that, they've worked very, very hard to make it as minimal as possible. There is definitely an increase, but is it an increase we can live with? And I'm gonna, speak for myself. I'm gonna comment on that. I think that if indeed it becomes the master plan, I think we can live with it. It's much better than what the fourth floor did, for sure. And I think that, the choice of materials, the paint, and the safety issue, which I think is really, it's real and it's critical. All of this is leading me to an approval. And I think that we need to figure out how we as a community board can engage with the ownership of the building. I don't know if it's a co-op or a condo, and with LPC on, how we can really encourage this building to adopt a master plan, which actually may be a huge benefit to them, so that, when they decide, unit owners decide to replace the windows, they don't have to, scratch their heads and figure out how they're gonna do it. It's done for them, and hopefully it's, everybody will agree that it's done in a way that is, tactful and tasteful and energy efficient and all that good stuff. I think, yeah.
We looked at windows in April. And we denied those windows because they were proposed aluminum instead of wood. But in that resolution, we called on LPC to use our approval of those windows, except for the framing, as the master plan. That was in April. I wrote that resolution. So
what you mean for this particular
yes,
building?
for this window, for this building, yes, April of this year.
I was in here.
And it was a wood window, not steel?
We denied it because they proposed to use aluminum instead of wood. But the rest of it.
Okay,
Maybe for the rear
once
windows.
again, I'm going to actually get out of
Anyway.
order and just clarify maybe with the architect, are there any wood windows? in
There are
this?
windows, there are casement windows, there are back facade windows, and there was a filing for,
Oh,
My point was, we called on LPC to do a master plan. And we suggested that our resolution in April form the basis for the master plan. And I think that might be a way forward on this application as well.
yeah, okay,
That was my
okay,
point.
interesting. I mean, the whole wood got me totally confused. Okay, all right, so there are wood windows on this building. Or there were.
I think it's on the back.
In the rear facade, not the historic.
Oh, it's a rear facade. Okay, which is still significant, and all right.
It was the west facade on that application. They had those side windows facing west. That's what they were. They were wood.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
They were front, back, and then that particular floor had west facing.
has
windows
west facing. Okay,
Into a light well or something.
okay, interesting. All right, so we're already on record saying that we want a master plan for even other facades. Okay, all right, so if everybody is okay and on board, it looks like we're going towards a motion to approve and a strong recommendation to LPC and a commitment to work with, and the building owner or management and LPC to create a master plan. Okay, so someone needs to make the motion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, Peter, are you comfortable with this language? I know that this is it.
You all have much more experience with the building than I do, so.
Okay, all right. So let's take this to a vote.
Fritz,
Yes.
Peter,
Yes.
Harris,
Yes.
Hirschberg,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Quebec,
Yes.
Logisico,
Yes.
Miller,
Yes.
myself, me, yes, Spandorf,
Yes.
Stanberg,
Yes.
Takahashi Ryle,
Yes.
Testa,
Yes.
Zolkowitz.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, the next application is 608 Fifth Avenue. And this is an application for proposed signage, flags, painting at the exterior windows and storefront modifications. And if we have the team of applicants for 608 Fifth Avenue, if you want to come and slide in this little area, yes, the nook.
The applicant center.
Join us in the applicant's nook. Sounds very scary. You know, we make it very, very cozy.
Copies, but I don't think
Oh, yeah, no, that's fine. We,
Okay.
if anything, you're able to share
Yeah, we
the presentation and we can,
leave copies for anyone.
well, you can actually save it and, maybe for the commissioners. I don't know if this will be paper these days.
Good, can I start?
Yes, the floor is yours.
Good evening, Individual 5. My name's Andy. I'm representing for our client Aritzia for the project located at 608 Fifth Avenue. Slide, please. We're just gonna go through a couple of things, history of site, existing building, and then we'll hop into the proposed exterior design and existing and proposed plans and the elevations as an appendix for the project. The project is located on the corner of 49th and Fifth Avenue. One block away from Rockefeller Center. It's currently unoccupied, vacant on the first and second floors with offices on the upper portion of the building. Here's a sample map showing the location on Fifth, and you can see Radio City Music Hall is at that point. The building was, just a brief history about the building, was completed in 1932. The owner was Robert Odin Gobert, Golett, sorry. This is built on the site of his original mansion. And it was also known as in the 70s as the Swiss Center building because they had a coalition of Swiss businesses. And it was designated as such in 1990. Next photo, and these photos will show you the landmarks designation photos at the time. As you can see, it had signage indicating that the corners Swiss Center, as well as some slats that covered the first and second floors of the building. And we'll go to the more current photo. The Swiss Building Center ended their lease with the property in 1996, and subsequently they removed the signage and the slats by exposing the existing retail storefront at the second and first floors of the building. And we'll go to the proposed exterior of the building. What we're doing is our client would like to remove the existing flags and reuse the existing flag posts for their branding, as well as install some exterior signage with minimally invasive procedures into the existing stone bands, as we previously showed you at the Swiss Center, as well as painting the exterior storefront on the first and second floors. So we have the existing exterior, and then the proposed exterior below. On the top, you can see the existing two flag poles that are currently American flags. And below, we would have the new flags on the existing flag poles. Some exterior signage at the second floor stone band, as well as the first floor stone band, as well as repainting the storefront. And the building was originally designed as retail on the first and second floors. So the building was, when it was originally designed, it was always envisioned as a base of the building, which was the first, second, and potentially third floors would be retail space, because at the time, retail rates were skyrocketing, and the upper portions of the building were more of a cell tower style, where you would have windows that would be more uniform. And as I believe, our office has been before the community board to propose a window master plan for the upper portion of the building. But we're coming before community board today to propose something different for the lower portion, as it is a more commercial storefront, and the client feels that this would help tie the thing together. Next slide. We'll leave that up. So we're gonna go through a few of the main elements. The first element is reusing the existing flag posts. We're gonna install a flag with the store branding on it. It will be the same exact dimensions as the existing flag, and these will be at 2 locations. The second element would be signage. There would be 2 types of signage on the building. The first of which would be brass lettering, which we have a sample of, we can distribute to the board to take a look. It will be CNC cut letters here to the existing storefront at the first floor only. And these would be 1/4 inch and adhered with silicone, so it would not damage any historic fabric. And the second type of signage would be brass lettering also, but these would be at the locations here, 1, 2, 3, and 4. These signages would be mounted to the existing stone bands, which are green and white bands, green and white stone. And these would be pin mounted, so we try to minimize as much disturbance to historic fabric as much as possible, while trying to maintain that aesthetic. And the window color would be, a brass color to match the proposed brass signage 1, 2, and 3 locations, and that would allow us to tie it together. So this is a view of the corner shot as rendered from 5th and 49th. We have one from 5th Avenue looking in. As you can see, you have one large signage at the corner similar to what the Swiss Center had. These are the existing frames. We're leaving them in place when clean them up and anodize them with the new finish. And one in the center here, as well as some on the side on the bottom. And this is another view from 49th Street. So these are all existing frames that we're gonna keep in place. We're gonna refinish, strip them and refinish them to the proposed finish. And the last element that we're asking approval for today is the main vestibule of entrance of the building. Go to the next one. You mind if I? The current entrance to the building is located on 5th Avenue. It's a series of 3 sets of double doors with a vestibule in the building. We're proposing is modifying that into creating 2 sets of double doors, which would let the entry sequence breathe, and as well as maintaining the vestibule for climate control. This was previously a landmarks item because there was a modification of the storefront in 2014, I believe. And what we are trying to do here is just change out the doors and really just make it a easier entrance sequence as opposed to this convoluted entrance sequence. Next. An appendix, some of the second floor plans. If you flip back down there. We are trying, as obviously commercial storefront is a premium and obviously something that people are going to enjoy walking by. We concentrated a lot of the items that are back of house by the elevator core, so they're kind of hidden away, and everything else is kind of you can walk by and see as a reference in the background. On the second floor, we again maximized as much window space, not to block that as much visibility into it as much as possible. So the only space that we're really taking up is step back forward is the escalators that we install. Thanks. And these are 2 elevations from 608 Fifth. The first elevation is the 5th Avenue elevation as it was originally. It was originally a set of double doors and a transom above. It became 3 sets of double doors. And we're proposing is 2 sets of double doors at the base. And on the Fifth Avenue side, this would be the extent of the exterior signage package. We'd have the flag up at the top. We would have 2 Aritzia signs on the 49th Street side, as well as some branding at the storefront level, so you will be able to see. And we just wanted to end on the existing and proposed, and we'll be happy to take any questions, comments, or any clarifications that we.
Thank you. I'm confused, actually.
Yes.
It is not an interior landmark, is it?
No, well, the lobby is interior. This is the storefront. The lobby has an entrance.
There it is.
This lobby is landmark.
The lobby is landmark. The interior of the space is landmarked.
The lobby of the building.
The lobby is
The lobby of the building.
the lobby of the building.
Yeah, not the store. Not the store.
Not the store.
Yeah, that's my question to you. The lobby of the building is an interior landmark?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. We'll take your word for it.
We'll see them. This land here.
Okay. Who knew? I mean, I know we have all the interior landmarks, that this one is,
It's rare that you see that the building's landmark on the exterior and the interior. It's also, I believe, part of the state historic preservation.
okay, okay, fascinating. Okay, so please explain again the intervention that you're proposing for this particular space.
So what we're coming before the committee board today is for exterior signage, which is the
No, as it pertains to the interior.
as it pertains to interior, what we're changing is the 3 sets of doors to 2 sets of double doors. And I think they're adding escalator.
So that's the existing.
Yeah, and the lobby, the landmark portion.
So the landmark portion is the gray area.
Correct.
And what intervention are you doing with this gray area?
We're not doing any.
You're not touching that.
That pink door at the back of it, that's not,
I think that's just an access door to the place there. That's.
is that part of the landmark?
No, it's the ceiling and the doors.
Okay, let's try to stay organized. So, okay, all right, I think I'm starting to get it. Let's go to questions from members of the committee. Yeah, go ahead.
Yes.
The, I guess it's, what is the material, the facade, that you're putting the pin mounting in, the pin letters into?
Yes. It is a it's
Okay, and that is original?
that's original to the building. And what we're trying to do is using pin mounts to minimize creating any large attachments so that in the future, they could use the French.
And then, second question.
Yeah.
Can you explain a little bit about the decision for the brass coloring, where that came from and what the idea behind that was?
Yes, we looked at the, so part of our original approval for the presentation, we looked at the original, windows and they had more of aluminum. What is kind of two-pronged. The first was they want to use, brass signage for the, as part of their branding here. So it would unify the signage as well as the window and create a uniform front. For the interior of the building, there are some elements of that are referenced in the art in the period that would reference to Samosian gold that we wanted to throw reference to, but we're open to comments and commentary on the window color.
Wait, I don't know. So what you're saying is that there exists an historic,
The historic color is, and we had that approved at the, at a landmarks was for window colors for the tower of the building.
yeah, no, but say again what you just said, that there is some historic precedent for the brass color?
There are some references to gold and brass being used in the lobby. And in the designation report, they were specifically referred to elements of gold as well as the green and the white that are present in the stone. But there is no explicit reference to use of brass molding.
Okay,
The color that we're proposing.
got it.
And that's why we're before.
Thank you. Peter,
What is the finish now of the window framing and what has it been historically?
The finish now, the window framing has been clear coat on anodized aluminum. On the upper portion of the building, we had paint houses done. And that was, we found the color that was appropriate for the upper cells, which was, and we have that wood coat, right? We pull that up from us. Originally, the when in the between the seventies and nineties, when this was designated, you wouldn't actually, they install slats over each section. So when they removed them, this is what was remaining. So, yeah.
okay. Any follow-ups? Zul,
Yeah, are there any examples of this bright metallic frame finish in this area of the dam? Other store fronts that have it?
No.
We walked up and down, and Lee and I walked up and down Rockefeller Center. They don't have a specific brass finish, but they do have a bronze or accentuated bronze finish. We do have a color chip for the
This,
brass sample.
this
Okay.
one?
Yeah, that's for the aluminum windows at the upper portion of the
Oh, I
building.
see.
okay. Other questions? Yeah, Tony.
The Aritzia signs, the two on Fifth Avenue, are those two different sizes, the ones on the marble? The second floor, is that larger?
I believe the second floor is large.
It is larger. And I could follow up, for all of the exterior signage, is there any lighting at all?
No lighting, just pin mounted.
Mounted, no backlighting, no.
No backlighting. We explicitly informed them that was not allowed.
One more maybe for you, Leila. Flag pole, I know is in our purview. What about the flags themselves? Do we discuss those?
Not really.
Okay.
Not really, and so we discussed lots of things about the flag, such as the size, the color, the illumination. What goes on it is not really within our purview. It's also probably protected by freedom of expression. And so long, and it is also, I mean, there are gazillion precedents for brands coming and putting the name of their brand. So I think that it is historically appropriate, to change the name as business changes.
Thank you.
Yeah, Suzanne.
I was gonna just follow up on that. I just wondered if the Fifth Avenue Association, this is maybe a question to you, do they ask that mustard flags be American? I'm just curious if that's particular corridor has so many I know it's a Canadian company. I shop there, but they,
Trust
so
me.
I don't know, is it the Canadians? There's the
They're putting
Canadians
me
out
up to
there.
this, yes.
Yeah, they're putting you up to this. I knew. But I just wondered if Fifth Avenue, I don't know if it's really a question, did that ever come up that they have a president? No, I guess not.
I don't think so. And
Yeah,
I
so
don't
some
think that
American-
they would be even allowed to really dictate,
Dictate that. Okay.
what goes up on these buildings.
Okay.
Interject, I did do a dig into the US international flag building. There's no violations in regards to.
Okay.
So
Because that
they-
was
they
one of
can-
the questions that did
they
come
can-
up on.
and if anything, it would be another jurisdiction and not ours.
Right.
But we wanted to bring that up to you because it does, as part of the cohesive package, we wanted to show everything that's
Yeah.
being installed, just to make sure that the community board has a level of comfort.
Yeah. No, and that's really much appreciated, absolutely. Okay, other questions?
Sachi.
No, sorry. It's not a hand.
Tell us again, what is the material for these bands? I know you said stone, but is it marble? Is it granite?
I would, I'm gonna go out on a limb and, I'm gonna say it's a granite. It's a green and white stone. That was what was, noted in the landmarks, designation.
Okay,
It did make reference to a specific material.
okay. Tony, I know you're the expert.
I'm reading.
I know that Sachi had it
too.
as well.
There is a reference to Dover green marble, but I'm not actually sure.
That doesn't sound.
That
Right?
doesn't
Yeah,
look
maybe a
like
different part
Dover
of-
green.
okay,
Yeah,
yeah.
maybe it's for the interior.
I believe that
lobby.
is for the interior.
Yeah, we really
look
have
like
to
a
go and see
granite.
this lobby. I mean, who knew that it was an
Tiny
interior?
little hallway, yeah,
I
it's-
know, it's fascinating. Okay, all right. Any other questions? Any other questions from members of the committee? Okay, let's open it up to members of the public. Members of the public, you can use the raise hand function to indicate that you wish to speak. Any questions or comments from members of the public? Okay, so seeing none, we are moving to business session. During business session, only members of the committee can discuss the matter. Barbara.
Yeah, well, I always have concerned about mounting letters into existing fabric, even though it's teeny, you know, that it adds up over time. And so that is an area of great discomfort for me. If there was some way to attach the sign in the way that the other sign is, you know, so that it is more completely reversible, I would feel much more comfortable with that. I also find the color of really glaring. And I would much prefer to see something more in the historic palette of the exterior mullions. And so those are my comments. Other than that, I don't have any issue with the doors. I don't have any other issues.
Yeah, and you know, just for the committee, basically, we need to comment on 3 areas. The first one is the flags, which I think we've kind of settled that. I mean, certainly if there were diverging views, go ahead, but you know, so it's the flags, the storefront treatment and signage, and then the doors. Those are the 3 elements. Brad.
Yeah, I have no issues with the flags or the door changes. I think the same thing, my same concerns are the same one as Barbara, which I think that I would like to see a different mounting method rather than the pin mounted on every single letter. Perhaps you could put a band behind it because you do have the benefit of the dark stone back there, and then you could be doing it at joint lines rather than in the center of these panels. That might minimize some of those concerns. And then the same thing that I think that the brass is very eye-catching and not a good way for a historic district. And from the photos that were shared previously, especially contextual, because that entire upper band was like covered with louver, so it was meant to sort of fade away, and then we're doing the opposite. So I would like to see a different color for those.
Yeah.
I guess I forgot to ask this, so maybe everybody knows, but at the base, they also said there was going to be the listing of the name in addition to the flags, in addition to the signs at the base, and I guess that's also in the brass color. Did everybody understand that?
Yeah, it's like an adhesive that they're
Like an
putting on.
adhesive, yeah. Okay. A lot of signage, I think, you know, an extensive amount of signage for an avenue that we were fighting to keep elegant and historic. And so I think that that would be something that I would address and perhaps ask to be removed. I don't really have, I mean, I think the color's up. I think it's interesting, but I don't think it's historic. I like that. It's very happy, but I don't think it's very historic.
Yeah. Zul.
Yeah, no, I think the color is garish, not in the least bit historic. It's not rocket sensor.
Yes,
I
Kevin.
know I'm in the minority, but I'm gonna stand against the flags. I think that the American flag is kind of blends into the background and fits the Rockefeller Center with the ice rink and the flags surrounding that. Whereas this, now it intrudes anyone who's walking on Fifth Avenue up or down suddenly is, their sight line is hit with this brand. So I.
Okay.
Is that an upper?
I'm sorry.
Is that an upper view?
Yeah, can we?
Oh, it is, it
Okay.
is, it is something that, there are many arguments that they can make to say that, it's protected by, speech, and that, historically, it's been, very common that, a flag, is replaced by another one when, a new brand or company comes and wants to put their signage. So, there's lots of precedents to actually approve it. But at the same time, it is absolutely within our purview. Yeah. So, yeah, totally well taken, Peter.
Yeah, so with the notable exception of the building seven blocks up that replaced the late great Von Teller, the building we almost in the name of, that's the only brass in the neighborhood, and it just seems wrong. And it seems like a lot of signage.
Yeah, very heavy on signage. Okay, so we're starting to see where this is going. Yes, Mike.
So I just pulled up a picture because I saw the Rockettes this week. They're great. And I just put up a picture of Radio City Music Hall. And you want to talk about big letters and garish letters and big red jumping out at the sky. Forget about it. And that's right around the
But
corner.
this is
no?
not what is in front of us, Mike. This is absolutely not.
Okay,
what
okay, but there is
in front of us.
examples of
This-
big letters. Okay.
Yeah,
I just
there are
want to
plenty
say.
of examples for very, very big. Let's not do cross conversations. Okay, let's focus on what is in front of us. By the way, this is an individual landmark, so, there is obviously a very, large, urban context, but, it's like that this building is a sort of like standalone, and so that's really what is, in front of us. Okay, so we're starting to see where this is going. Yeah, Sachi,
This is just a reflection. I don't know if this goes anywhere
we're in comments.
yes, yeah. So here's my comment. Right now, it looks like the signage, if you just look at the Google Map version, which is from 2022, that looks maybe a little bit outdated. There is an Aritzia sign, but it's not on the marble. It's like on the window.
Yeah, it's something.
Yeah, we're in
it's-
business session, so.
Right. So I guess it's the way that it currently looks, where you can't see the window at all. It's the signage is actually bigger now than what's proposed because it's huge and covering the huge windows. And I guess like the my comment is that I think what they're proposing is actually less signage than what currently exists, like less obvious signage than what currently exists.
Yeah, so, it may be an improvement compared to what exists. I think that, the question is, how do we get it right? With something that, we feel is contextual for the building. And it is not a big building. And it's obviously a very significant building that LPC felt they should also designate the interior lobby. Okay, so I think we're getting a sense of where this is going. There's a little bit of diverging views on the flag, maybe. So is it a deal breaker for you, Kevin? I would love to be able to, get a resolution that is, that.
No, if I'm the only one, then no.
Okay, we can certainly mention it in the resolution unless there is, strong objection to that, but, we can say that, the American flag holds some value, and that this would be the
Yeah.
preferred,
It wasn't that I
not for a Canadian.
want the American flag. I just said the American flag kind of, it doesn't catch your eye as much as like
Yeah.
Aritzia, like
Yeah.
you're walking down Fifth Avenue.
Yeah. Okay, so maybe we can phrase it as part of the comment on signage. That
Sure.
is like overwhelming signage, including on the flagpoles,
Yep.
on flags. Okay, so the concerns that we have are about the color for the framing and the amount of signage and the mounting of the signage and the number of vinyl signs on the windows. Okay, these are pretty much the areas where we have concerns. And it looks like we would deny this application unless, once again, I'm gonna get out of order, but turning to the applicant, would it be agreeable to the client to actually revise these elements?
limit the number of signage, reconsider, the mounting of the signage and, change the color altogether. Probably, you know, I think we would be, happy with, the sample that you have, shown us, what was approved with the upper floors.
Yes, so I can address all the comments. The first comment on flags and the signage, they're definitely amenable to just reducing that to make it a more, so flashy. So we can definitely work with them to reduce the number of signage. The second item, and forgive me if I'm wrong,
The color.
the window color, yes, we will be open, they'll be open to change the different color.
Okay.
To something a little bit more, either historic or not as ritzy.
Okay.
As
Um,
garish as our
Would.
friend. And the third item, the pin mounting, we're open to pinning in between joints, including a bar. It's not the preferred option, but it's something that we can work with them to create a minimum solution that would appease both
Okay.
everybody.
Okay, do you think that you could get us a revised design and that you would file that revised design with LPC? Because unless
Yes.
you file it with LPC, then, you know.
This
it-
all has to go to here also, so we're gonna change it. We have an application in with landmarks, and we're based on commentary, we'll revise that and obviously send a copy to community board for review
Okay,
as well.
and do you think you can do that before our full board, which is on December 14th?
Updated
No,
presentation,
11th, December 11th.
updated presentation, review signage, and
File it with LPC. That's the big critical part.
we can amend we have a docket number with them.
Yeah, so,
We
but
can-
amend the
LPC,
filing. Yeah.
Correct, yes.
Okay. I am inclined to do with this one what we did for the first one.
Sounds like it.
And I want to make sure that we feel that, you know, there is a little bit more of, you know, discretion interpretation as to what really constitutes smaller signage.
Yeah, my only concern that I think the color and the mounting, I think we can get right from that, but the reduction in the amount of signage feels like a difficult and subjective thing for us to agree on now before we change this before the full board meeting. So I just don't know what our line is. Maybe we should discuss, or maybe.
It seems that we really run into the issues that Chuck and John brought up before with this, is that there's really extensive revision here, and that we leave it to you guys as maybe putting too much on you, and maybe they need to come
Yeah.
back.
No, and you know, it has to be an approval by the committee. It cannot, so what we. I would hate to lose on the opportunity to really make this a better.
Well, seeing as they are agreeable to our changes, could we do it as a deny unless for this one with those changes specified?
I guess.
We were much tougher in Flatiron District, Ladies Historic
Yes,
District.
yeah,
We got historic signage. we got
very,
Discrete window frames. And it looks right.
well, hopefully we can get there
But again,
on this one. And yeah, no, I agree. Okay, so the motion would be to deny unless
Those three elements.
those three elements are addressed, and we would still expect you guys to do all these things, submit and file amend the application.
Understood.
Okay. All right, is everybody on board with this idea, generally speaking? So we're ready for a motion. Okay, so we need a motion. I can't make the motion.
Motion to that.
Okay, and then those conditions that we have just spelled out, and you seconded.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. So we're ready to take this to a vote.
Okay, Riz,
Yes.
Peter,
Yes.
Harris.
Yeah.
Hirschberg.
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Quebec.
Yes.
Logisico.
Yes.
Miller.
Yes.
I myself am a yes. Spandorf,
Yes.
Stanberg,
Yes.
Takahashi Ryle,
Yes.
Testa,
Yes.
Zolkowitz.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Is there a Windsor here?
Yes, it is at the end of the corridor and the
It's a code by the.
code
Oh,
is
right.
on the wall.
Yeah, yeah.
We lose that example.
Can't wait for the rest of them for coming.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right, let's, we're gonna let this, team of applicants, squeeze and do an exfiltration, and then we can bring the, next team of applicants in the new.
The stone, by the way, is Verdi antique marble. So.
Oh, it is.
That green.
It looks like.
And it goes up that vertical column too, up on the higher floor.
Does it say where it's quarried?
Okay.
Not in the floor.
Because it's vertical.
All right, so if there's a way to do the transition as swiftly as possible between teams of applicants. Can we get the next
ready for us?
team? We're ready for you
Where do you want us?
in the nuke.
In the nook? This is the nook?
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
Sorry.
Are they presented?
Yeah. For the whole purpose of actually being able to see the samples, because we really felt we were,
Yeah.
you know, tragically missing out on what the samples really look like. And then, you know, we object to some aspects, and then the applicant tells us that, well, you know, it's the rendering that was wrong, but we felt that, you know, for this particular committee, it would be much more effective to have them in person. And we're very grateful that you are here with us. All right,
We are presenting
so you,
to.
yes, you should be able to, and, you know, hopefully you were told that the expectation, and this is brand new, so thank you so much for your patience, but you should share your screen and get the presentation on. Fantastic, so that folks who are attending remotely
Yes.
can also follow on the presentation.
Andres, this will work if I. Would anyone object if I remove my jacket?
No, really not. I know, I had a scar.
Out of here.
It is just
No.
brutal.
Maybe from freezing too.
Well, ready for us?
Yeah. The floor is yours.
It's nice to see you all in person. I think it's been about.
I know, I know.
Very, very, strange. It's not quite like the library at Xavier, but it's nice to see. you.
Very cozy.
Very cozy. I'm Cass Stackelberg, principal at Higgins Grace Barton Partners, and I'm here with Ewan Robertson, the CEO of the Simons Foundation. And we're excited to share a presentation with you for a project at 160 and 162 Fifth Avenue. This is a project that I'm going to introduce some other team members. The project of this complexity is a collaboration among many professionals. I'm going to be presenting with Ewan. Alex Alvillero from TPG Architecture, principal at TPG, is with us tonight. TPG is working on one aspect of the proposal, which is the addition at 160 Fifth Avenue, and Nick Maiden and Andres Pistreza from Perkins Eastman, principals there, working on the bridge project that's connecting the two buildings. So you and I will make the presentation, but we're all here to answer any questions, and other team members as well. The Simons Foundation, as some of you may know, perhaps all of you know, is a really important entity doing amazing work right in your district. They're located headquartered, the foundation is headquartered at 160 Fifth Avenue, and the Flatiron Institute, which is a sort of sister organization, occupies 162 Fifth Avenue. There are two component parts of the project that we're bringing forward tonight. They're actually filed with landmarks under two applications, but they're going to be heard together at the public hearing of December 19th. And that includes a rooftop addition at 160 Fifth Avenue, and a bridge connecting 160 and 162 Fifth. I should mention at the outset, there are land use actions that are associated with these, with the bridge application.
The bridge requires a revocable consent. And as part of that, we're going through a ULURP process, so you'll see us, some part of us again, at the land use committee. But I do want to mention that as part of the sort of overall, the overall process. Let's go to the next slide. So on the left is a historic district map. 160 and 162 are highlighted in red, right at the really the northern center, perhaps the heart of the district. And then the Sandmore map on the right showing the position of the two buildings directly across the street from one another on West 21st Street. Next slide. The two buildings on the left, 160 was completed in 1893 in a neo-Renaissance style, and 162 completed about 10 years later in 1903 in a Beaux-Arts style. Built about 10 years apart, they have different architectural expressions. That's a significant, I think, fact in the design decisions that team has made in terms of how we connect these two buildings. And we'll talk, of course, more about that shortly. Simons Foundation is headquartered on the building on the left, and the Flatiron Institute is on the right. The ground floor is a separate commercial unit that is not controlled by the foundation, so they occupy the upper floors of both buildings. And this project really is very much about enhancing the mission of the foundation, as Ewan will speak to, and also, of course, enhancing public engagement and public involvement in these buildings and in the work that the foundation does. Next slide.
So I wanted to take just a few minutes to let you all know a little bit about who we are as a foundation, because I think it is germane to why we're making this proposal. Obviously, you focus on the buildings and the proposed kind of architecture and so forth, but I think it's important to understand a little bit about who we are. Simons Foundation is a private philanthropic foundation that was set up about 29 years ago now by Marilyn and Jim Simons. We do three fundamental things, all towards our mission, which is to advance science, particularly mathematical and basic science. So that's the fields that we're in. And those three things are, first of all, we're a major grant maker. We do about $350 million a year in grant making cumulatively in the New York area. We've made about $1 billion of grants to date, and those grants are going to large institutions that you've heard of, Rockefeller University, Columbia, NYU, to scientists there, but also to small not-for-profit organizations. So I'll speak a little bit about that when we come to the third leg of the stool. The second thing that the foundation does is we actually do science as well. So we fund other people to do science, but we do science ourselves. And that's what we call our Flatiron Institute, which Kaz has referenced, speaking about the activity in the buildings. We have about roughly 250 staff scientists at the foundation. So think of it as a university campus in miniature. And really what we're trying to do here is create this connected campus in the Flatiron district. And then the third part of what we do is education and outreach, and that's about engaging the public in science. People who may not be scientists, they may not think that they're interested in science, and part of what we want to do is get people excited by science, get them to appreciate the role that science plays, the intersection between science and culture and art and design, and that's a big part of what we do, and a lot of that is done through events and convening, but also through the grants I referenced before to smaller not-for-profit institutions and organizations that are active in various communities, engaging people from kids through to adults in science. Next slide. Okay, so the buildings are really a platform, and we bring a lot of life and a lot of activity to those buildings. Absolutely at the heart of what we do is convening and in-person interaction. We believe very strongly in it for our own scientists. We believe that the best scientific breakthroughs happen when people get in rooms together, rooms like this sometimes, and actually share their knowledge, share their ideas, brainstorm, and so forth. So around the buildings there, you just see some examples of the types of events and convenings that we do. We have public lecture series, Wednesdays and Fridays, open to all, sign up, come, lectures and talks. Some of them are deep science, some of them are much more accessible to a lay audience. We have a whole host of scientific conferences and events. We do about over 100 major events a year and a lot of other shorter events. By major events, I mean typically a program would be 150 to 160 people, 2.5 days. deep science conference, but we do a lot of short talks, lectures, workshops, colloquia, those kind of things. And then we do a big summer program. We bring a lot of visitors, interns and so forth to the Institute in the summer. We have visiting scholars that come throughout the year and we do talks and lectures around those. We host summits for our grantees. We're also the largest funder in the US of autism research. Probably that means we're one of the largest funders in the world of autism research. And we do a lot of engagement with family members. We run a huge clinical study called Spark, which is all about engaging families of people who have autism in research into how we can understand the biological mechanisms and then potentially provide treatments and interventions to help those families for those who want those treatments. And it's really, really important that we spend a lot of time with those people and engage with them. So that gives you a bit of a flavor of what goes on in these buildings. Next slide. So just categorically in how things are stacked, the foundation really has grown and evolved over time. When we started out at this location, we had one floor of 165th Avenue. And over time, as our organization has expanded, as our programs have expanded, as we decided to set up the Flatiron Institute and get into in-house research, we've kind of built out the space and filled it up. And there's a lot of interaction every day between these spaces. You can see top to bottom, as Kaz mentioned, we don't own or operate the retail spaces, but we have convening spaces on both second floors. We have a 170-person auditorium at 165th, about a 100-person auditorium at 162, breakout spaces above that. Then we have most of the 162 building is our Flatiron Institute, quantum physics, biology, astrophysics, mathematics. And then our newest center, which is neuroscience, is over on the 160 side. The rest of 160 is all the grant making and support staff and so forth. And then our investments team are on the top floor, which pays for all of this wonderful activity. And then we have these two convening spaces on the top floors, which we'll talk more about. And then next slide. So really what we propose to do is to, number one, expand the convening space that we have at 160 by building a rooftop addition that will allow us to significantly increase the number of programs, workshops, events, etc. that we do, because we're reaching that maximum capacity right now. And then also connect to an existing convening space at 162 through the pedestrian sky bridge. The last thing I'll say is, from the outside, these are beautiful historic buildings that you pass them by, maybe think that they're office buildings. There's a lot of special infrastructure now in these buildings. We have supercomputers. We have dense fiber networks running throughout the buildings. The tools of the trade that our scientists and our grantees use are chalkboards, whiteboards, and supercomputers. So if you ever come and visit, that's what you'll see all around the place. And you will literally see people writing equations on chalkboards. And then we have these big simulation screens where we can call models up from the supercomputers and we can run models in real time. And the scientists can stand around and kind of collaborate on those models. So these are not your standard kind of office buildings. And it's a really, really special place that we've created. So thank you.
So, hey, is it okay if I present from the front? I just would like to.
Yes, of
Okay.
course.
Let me do that, just please. Take full advantage of actually being that person. So, as we've described, there are two components to the application and to the project that we're presenting. So this is the rooftop at 165th Avenue, and then this is 162. So the first piece that I'm going to present is the rooftop addition at 165th. It's a hazard right rooftop addition. And then we'll segue into discussion about the bridge that connects the two. I'll also just point out the addition of the roofscape at 162 Fifth Avenue. The foundation has been before Community Board 3 times already. And I know Jim and Marilyn actually presented to some of you, I think it was 2016.
Yeah.
And we presented the work up at the roof. And 2017, the committee and the Community Board was supportive of that work, and we appreciate that. So today, we're going to be talking about the roof here and the bridge, which, as Ewan said, really sort of are this vital connection now to enhance the convening that is done at the foundation. Next slide. So existing on the left and proposed on the right, the roofscape at 160 is a combination of occupiable open space used for the foundation members, people working in the building, a little elevator, vestibule, building mechanicals, pergola, and the proposal sorry, before I get there, lining the roof is a very tall 10-foot parapet, which really does most of the work for shielding this addition, which we'll see in a moment. And then the addition here shown on the right, basically rationalizing the mechanical equipment into this corner and up on the roof of this element. The addition is a tall 1-story here with movable north elevation wall system, and then a 2-story system here that includes elevator, vestibule, meeting rooms, back of house spaces, restrooms, things like that, and then relocating the water tanks to that side. And what you'll see is the only portion of this addition that's visible is just this edge here. That's it. The whole thing has been sculpted really by the sidelines. Some existing photographs to show you how the roof is used currently. As I said, it's sort of open space, meeting space, wood decking, tables, chairs, and mechanical systems to the south and to the west. Next slide. An existing plan. This is what the roof. Sorry, the 11th floor, 162, and then the roof at 160. You can see the layout of the mechanical equipment and the cooling towers. The existing elevators coming up to the roof with the vestibule, and then the open areas. Next slide. So in terms of what we're trying to achieve, this is the enclosed addition here at 160. We're showing a layout of about 150 seats for this convenience space. Obviously, very flexible space. Elevator already comes up to this floor, and then the support space is behind it. This addition is set back 25 feet from the parapet on the 21st Street side and 20 feet on the Fifth Avenue side. And then because of that high parapet, it's nearly invisible. We have a mock-up. I'll show you actually what you see. And then you see the bridge here connecting through this little vestibule across 21st Street to this other space, this convenience space at the top floor of 162. And together, those two components, the 11th floor of 162, the roof and enclosed space at 160, sort of create this amazing opportunity now for the foundation that doesn't currently exist. Next slide. And then an upper roof plan for the addition. So the sloped metal roof, skylight at the downward slope of the addition, solar panels on these flat roofs facing south, and then the different mechanical equipment in the west side of the next slide. Some side elevations and frontal elevations. This is the north elevation. This is an operable door system that faces north out onto the open space of the roof, and then the side elevation, the east elevation of the addition. Next slide. Section. So as I said, it's a tall 1-story enclosed space on the north side, and then 2 stories in the back with meeting spaces and support spaces. Next slide. For just a sense of the materiality, the enclosure itself will be in a gray, sort of matte gray finish. We have material samples which we have to pass around, and then the decking will be wood decking as well as concrete pavers, and then to the back, the outer perimeter of that 2-story volume is clad in brick with terracotta panels on the north face and metal panels elsewhere. You can see the sort of combination of combining of mechanical equipment back in that southwest corner. Next slide. As I mentioned, we have built a mock-up. The 2 views here are a photograph from within Madison Square Park looking south, and then this is a rendered view. So I'll just point out this little bit of orange here. That's the mock-up, and then this little wedge here, this is, I'm not sure, 200 millimeter zoom. It's a very high-powered zoom just to show you what you'd be seeing if you could pick it up, and it's just this sort of gray sloped edge of the addition. That's perhaps the area of greatest visibility, but you are hundreds of feet away. And I think just seeing it, you don't see it against the sky, you see it in the context of other rooftop features, the pyramidal roof at 156, so it will be lost in the roofscape of the surrounding buildings. Next slide. A little bit closer from 23rd Street, again, there's the orange netting, but of course it's not going to be built in orange, it'll be built in this gray tone, so it really will be sort of lost in the masonry and other features that are up at that elevation. Next slide. From the east on 21st Street, there are a couple of spots. Again, you can see this is the rendered view, just the side slope of the addition next. And then a little bit further to the east, closer to Broadway here. Reads like a sloped stair bulkhead. It's really sort of reads more like a rooftop feature than any kind of habitable space. Next. So turning to the second component, the bridge, this is an elevation on Fifth Avenue. Looking to the bridge, which is going to connect at the roof level of one sixty and the 11th floor of 162. You can see there's a slight gradient. It's a 4-degree slope, and that's because these two buildings were built almost 10 years apart. No intention to make them relate to one another back in the 1890s and early 1900s. And so that accommodates the variation in floor levels. It is entirely ADA accessible for 4% slope. I'll also mention it is 100 feet deep off of the Fifth Avenue facade. So it's set deep into the block, and the bottom of the bridge is 135 feet above the sidewalk. And as you'll see in our renderings, the goal here really was to obviously elevate it to the roof for programmatic reasons, but also it takes it out of the line of sight. So you really have to sort of stop and look up to see it when you're close in. Next slide. So existing and rendered views side by side. As you'll see, this is a really structurally advanced structure. It is composed of 4 elements, 3 long pieces of glass and a carbon fiber deck. So the idea is for it to be contemporary and light in weight and also appearance. And as we'll discuss, we think this is the way architecturally to connect these buildings, and not to do it in a sort of flat metal material, but to speak really to the sort of advanced work that's happening in the buildings, and to do that in a very contemporary, advanced, structurally advanced manner. Next slide. Some additional views now looking back toward 160. As I mentioned, the addition is at the roof level. As you'll see, it intersects the cornice, which is a fiberglass replacement cornice, and a masonry parapet there. Next slide. And then on the 162 side, at the 11th floor, at 2 window bays on that top floor. Again, 100 feet setback from the Fifth Avenue elevation. Next slide. We have a series of renderings looking from some distance down 21st Street. So this is looking from Park Avenue, so about 600 feet, 400 feet away. And you can just see it again. Rendering glass is always a challenge, but the idea is that this is a transparent structure. It will have a frit for protecting birds, and it will also have a frit on the roof as well. But it will be transparent glass. Next slide. And then coming around to the other side from 6th Avenue, you can see it at this distance, down deep into the wall. Next slide. And then from 7th Avenue, of course, up and down 21st Street, you will see this if you're stopping to look for it. Next slide. So stepping back and thinking about the structure, because the structure of this bridge is very significant as it is placed within the structure of the history of structural innovations in the district. And of course, the Flatiron building, sort of this penultimate building in the district perhaps, was really very much at the vanguard of structural engineering at the time. This new steel frame system with terracotta hung off of the frame. And the 2 buildings at 160 and 162 were also steel frame buildings, but with masonry cladding. They speak a slightly different architectural language. As I mentioned, Neo-Renaissance, Beaux-Art, they have their own language. The 165th is a bit more sort of weighty, 162 more embellished. Again, sort of thinking about the way to connect these buildings, we think some simple glass structure really is the way to do that. Next slide. Also thinking about the way this innovation, this technology, this integrated structural technology fits within this evolution. So within the district itself, there is a clear illustration of structural innovations. And this is even referenced in the designation report for Ladies Mile, going from load-bearing masonry, the sort of row house scale structures, to even some of the commercial buildings, the early commercial buildings of the 1860s, to this moment frame curtain wall system like Flatiron, to what is going to be this bridge and this integrated structural, where basically the cladding is the structure. So you have these long stretches of laminated glass on the sides and the roof, and you have a carbon fiber deck. It is comprised, as I said, just 4 simple components that make up this bridge. Next. A little bit more detail on the bridge. So as I mentioned, this carbon fiber deck, it's this very lightweight optimized structure. It is created in many ways in the same way that some of the thinking that's going on inside these buildings, sort of using increased computing power to develop the structure itself, and to put the structure where it is needed, instead of having this sort of steel structure that's very large and heavy. It can be optimized to be the most slender form that it needs to be. And then in addition to the deck are these 3 pieces of triple laminated glass, 63 feet long, 10 feet high, which are anchored to one another and then attached to the deck. So it's a very simple, but at the same time advanced structure. Next slide. Thinking about the structure of this, the sort of history of structural innovation, this is a quote from the designation report that speaks to these advances in building technologies and how the buildings reveal these advances. So we have this sort of flip book from the load-bearing masonry, the building on 22nd Street, that beautiful commercial building, the Lord and Taylor building, this cast iron fronted department stores. You see them on 6th Avenue and on Broadway. And then going through to the Flatiron building. And this idea that in 1902, 1900, when this steel frame was going up, you can only imagine sort of people walking by there and this being this completely foreign, unusual thing. And I think we sort of think about that, this advancement sort of bringing people forward. In many ways, that's sort of how we're envisioning this bridge, is this sort of technologically advanced piece of architecture and engineering. And then this photograph here, looking east on 23rd Street, where you have this sort of spectrum of the masonry fronted row houses, the Stern Brothers department store clad in cast iron, and then the Flatiron building with its steel frame beyond. So this is on display. I think this is something that isn't discussed a lot in the Ladies Mile, and I don't think people think about it as much, but sort of digging in as we have as part of this project, it's a very important part of the district's history. Next slide. Sidewalk street bridges are a factor and a feature of the city. I think we sort of lose track of this. There are numerous ones still throughout the city. They're part of the streetscape. Up in not your district, but nearby on 15th Street. This connection for this whole Nabisco complex, so across 15th Street for sort of pedestrian connections. And then across 10th Avenue, the High Line here, but here constructed for pedestrian and the transfer of goods. This smaller bridge from 1907 across Staple Street down in the Tribeca Historic District. And then this bridge at the roof line of the Trinity and US Realty buildings. Both buildings are individual landmarks. That bridge remains. We sort of think of ourselves in this sort of similar vein of this high elevation, this almost ethereal quality to this, and you don't really notice that bridge unless you stop and you look at it. And then this bridge, which was taken down, this is one of two bridges that have now been removed at the MetLife complex. So this idea of these sort of complex of buildings, bridges connecting pieces of them to enhance collaboration, programming, function, very much similar to what's happening at this Adams Foundation. Next slide. Looking a little more closely at how these buildings interact with the bridges and how the bridges connect to them. Some of the bridges, like this one and Staple Street, was constructed with a building on the east side of Staple Street, whereas the one at Gimbel's, historically Gimbel's and Nabisco, were actually added after the buildings were constructed. So you have these kind of ad hoc interactions where there are piers that are being intersected by the bridges. And I think what's also interesting is the underside of these bridges, much in the same way as our carbon fiber deck is sculpted. The underside of these bridges too have an architectural quality. They're meant to be seen from below. Ours is distinct from these, but it's the same notion that you see them and they should be of their time. They should be sculpted. They should be something to look at. Next slide. And then two bridges very near the Ladies Mile Historic District. This one on the east side of Madison Square Park on 24th Street in the MetLife complex, which was recently removed, and then the one at the Toy Center. These bridges, of course, connected single entities, single businesses. When those businesses stopped having presence on either side of the street, the bridges came down. So we sort of think of that as part of that history of the sort of development of complexes similar to 160 and 162. Next slide. And then, of course, more contemporary bridges, Hunter College, Columbia Presbyterian, sort of educational, medical use, and then Juilliard, the sort of performing arts. This bridge, I think, for us is quite inspirational, obviously done in a very different series of materials, metal and glass, and has a much heavier feel to it. But it's something that is both functional and beautiful. And it's really an enhancement to the streetscape, we think, and also obviously programmatically functions. It also took the place of a very weighty stone-clad sky bridge or overpass, basically. But we think this is the kind of thing that actually really sort of is an enhancement to the historic picture around it. Next slide. Ladies Mile, as you all well know, encompasses a series of entities, commercial enterprises that expanded over time and sort of grew with the success of those businesses, whether they were department stores or publishing houses. This is something that is a fact that is particular to Ladies Mile. And you see it across these expansions, both lateral and vertical, like the Let building, but you see it as you begin to read the buildings. Next slide. And I think of particular interest, the Honor Constable complex down on 18th and 19th Street and the Lord and Taylor between 19th and 20th. These complexes also grew over time and in fact actually ended up occupying almost their entire block. Some buildings, they were purpose built, others they actually, like Lord and Taylor, moved into buildings that were existing. And in those complexes, there were combinations of stores, department stores, storage, even some manufacturing. But what they did do, what's fascinating, when you look closely at these maps, what both Constable and Lord and Taylor did in order to bridge the different buildings within and connect the different buildings and uses within these complexes, they built bridges. And they're called out in the designation board, and you can see them in these historic maps. There are bridges that connect different parts of these complexes. I think if Simon's had the opportunity to grow on their block, they do the same thing. They just give too many ideas. And similarly, if these entities had the opportunity to grow across the street, they would have done the same thing. For us, the two properties are across the street. So we're in a similar vein, bridging these disparate uses that exist across the street. Next slide. So a proposed elevation of 165th Avenue showing the both the location and the scale of the opening. It's actually quite small. It's perhaps even smaller than one window bay on the upper floors of 165th Avenue. And then next slide, proposed elevation at 162. Again, at the vast scale of this elevation, it's actually quite a modest impact up at that upper level of the ground floor. Next slide. So looking at the existing conditions of 160, again, this is where the bridge will be intersecting with the parapet. As I mentioned, this is a furnace that was installed about 15 years ago. It's a fiberglass furnace, and this is the full height of the parapet. You can see it from the back. It's about 10 feet high. So the impact of historic fabric here is really actually quite limited. This is a reconstructed parapet, reconstructed cornice, and then a painted brick masonry parapet, and a painted stone parapet as well. Next slide. Flipping around onto 162. So again, the bridge is going to come in this location. It's going to occupy most of the space, occupied right now by two windows, one of which has a louver in it. Because this is a revocable consent, this is going to sound sort of odd, but because this is a revocable consent, this bridge is designed to be reversed completely. So we understand that there may be a time when this bridge has to come down. So both in terms of the removals of historic fabric that are required for this, and also what's put back, all of that is considered. So this is actually a reversible installation. So here at 162, actually, all of this from the Acatarian down to this egg and dart, all of that is replacement material. We're not going to save the replacement material, but this pier, clad in terracotta, and the other terracotta elements, those will be carefully salvaged and stored on site during the life of the time the bridge is in place. The elements that are going to go back are actually going to be in GFRP because they're easier to disassemble. But if there's a time when the bridge goes away, we will have the significant terracotta features to rebuild them. Next slide. So again, existing conditions on 160, let's go to the next. And the insertion of the bridge, again, so coming through this fiberglass cornice, we're going to return the cornice back so it isn't just sort of a cut, but it'll actually return back. And you can see the simple bridge structure sitting within this steel frame and supporting the bridge on the 160 side. Next slide. A section just illustrating it coming in at the roof level. And then I'll just point out this uplight. There are uplights that are designed, they're going to have visors on them to focus the light. So just the underside of the deck is illuminated. There will be no spill into the apartment windows to the west or into the office windows to the east. It will very easily be done to just illuminate the underside of the bridge. Next slide. The section, I think this is important to understand. This bridge all its component parts, all its systems are built into the deck itself. So all the mechanical systems, there is a light that's set below the walking surface. So that is, there is illumination, but it is this very slender fixture and it's actually below the walking surface. So the only illumination inside the deck is the minimum to allow for passage. Next slide. And then turning around on the 162 side. So again, these are the removals that will be required to get to the underlying steel to sort of tie in to support the bridge. As I mentioned, the non-historic elements won't be salvaged. The historic masonry elements, those will be salvaged. Next slide. And you can see in elevations here how we're coming in. There's a glass shadow box here where the window exists today. And then this metal frame system here that will support the bridge. And then all of these elements will be recast and set back in a way that allows for them to actually be disassembled as well. Next slide. Section in the 162 side, and again, a light here just to light the underside of the deck. Next slide. And then a view from the street. This is slightly zoomed in the evening just to show you that light illumination on the underside. This is going to be sort of a light gray painted carbon fiber deck, and then the simple glass structure. Next slide. And then finally, just returning to the two components of the project, the addition at 160, the bridge connecting the two. We think in terms of the addition, these are similar features, things that you've seen probably quite frequently, not dissimilar in its visibility to what was approved and supported by the board at 162 then. And in terms of the bridge, this is a feature that we think actually is very much a part of the cityscape. There may not be bridges across streets in the district, but there are bridges connecting complexes within the district. And just as they did on Lord Taylor and are possible to sort of enhance the functionality and the programming of those important institutions, we see this bridge as serving the same function here at the same foundation. Thank you.
Thank you. Wow. In 120-degree.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
And we're all here to answer questions. So
Fantastic. All right, let's jump right in. Questions from members of the committee. Brad.
Yeah, I have a couple. So the first one is the spaces above the retail. Do you own those spaces or are you renting the spaces?
So the 160 building, except for the retail, we own. The 162 building, we have a 50-year lease.
50. Okay. And what year are we in now?
8 or 9, I want to say 8 or 9, something like that.
Early.
We have quite a long time left to go. And we have, good expectation that would be a renewable arrangement, but we to 50 years.
Okay. And keep going. The east side of the rooftop addition, looking at some of your mock-ups, I take your point that like you're putting it in a kind of a neutral gray that will fade away, but looked like it was fairly significantly visible, like the orange mock-up, particularly from the park. How did you get to that 20-foot setback, and how much further would it have to go to avoid that visibility?
Right. Let me answer the first part of that, and I'll let Alex Epley, our CPG, who's responsible for designing the addition. I think the orange is very visible, but that's the purpose of doing these mock-ups. I think we probably did a sort of disservice by not rendering at that same view, and maybe we'll add that for the landmarks presentation. I think it will be imperceptible from 500 feet. Alec, I don't know if you all studied sort of how far back you need to cut the addition to sort of eliminate visibility, but
it's so to answer the second part of the question, the volume is based on the zoning envelope. So there is the sky exposure plane within the zoning envelope, and so the volume is actually set back so as to be as of right city. We didn't study how far to set it back, given that the nature of the visibility is actually sitting against the adjacent building. So the adjacent building is not even sitting against the sky plane. So I have to say we didn't set that because the goal was to reach 170 people in the auditorium. So I couldn't tell you right now how far back.
Could you guess?
To guess?
Yeah.
It's unusual because we actually took extreme long views. So we're actually four city blocks away at that point. I'd have to guess probably another 12 foot or so. Only because if you truly want to not see it, you've got to come back away from the, even further away.
Because it's perpendicular to the view.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Keep going.
Okay. The bridge structure, what is the safety factor in the design of that?
Yeah, Nick, why don't we have you?
Could you actually
You could stand
stand
up.
when you speak, and can you actually state your name just for the record?
Nick Leahy, Perkins Eastman.
A little louder, Nick.
Nick Leahy, Perkins Eastman. Sorry, I have an accent too.
We all do,
We all
it's
have-
okay.
It's designed for stadium loading for a bridge, basically, so it's no different than, 100 pounds per square foot. So
I can't hear.
people running across that.
100
100
designed
pounds
for
per
what?
Square foot.
100 foot.
Designed for stadium loading. 100
Stadium
pounds per
loading,
square foot.
any bridge, it's designed to meet those.
Okay, thank you. Next.
The adjacent spaces to the bridge, because you had the one rendering where it's sort of blowing from either end. What's happening at either end of the bridge?
Anders, do you want to go back to the proposed roof plan? So just so I understand the question.
It was near the end. I think it was like the rendering looking up, that nighttime one that you just had on the right.
Why don't we do this just so you can sort of
Sure.
see how those spaces are used? So there's a vestibule here that sort of is a transition from the bridge to the enclosed space. That is enclosed.
Mhm.
And then this empties into the elevator lobby basically at the 11th floor, 162 floor. That then segues into this large convening space, dining, etc.
So there's vestibules at both ends, if I'm reading this plan correctly, of the bridge? Correct?
Yes.
Okay, so then that one rendering that you had, the nighttime one looking up near the end of the presentation, is that what you sort of anticipate the lighting levels in those vestibules being, or is that perhaps overstated? That 149.
I don't think you'd actually see the
You can't
vestibules.
see the vestibules.
The vestibules are basic, oh, you're saying.
Like the
that right
glow
there?
that's coming
Oh,
from either side, is that, do you anticipate that being kind of correct, or?
That looks maybe a little brighter than it
Yeah,
might be.
it's probably.
Yeah.
It's a reflection of the lighting within the photo. So from the photograph.
Okay.
And then the last is, you said you brought samples, do you have the glass one for us to look at by any chance?
Glass sample, but not the full makeup.
Just like.
Because it's too heavy to carry on the subject.
Okay, as we get the
Yeah,
samples
that-
brought in,
that's all I have for now,
let's move on to Tony.
Sticking with the lighting, so you've got uplighting underneath the bridge, it's on both sides?
Right.
It's on both sides, and the color of the bottom of the bridge, it looks whitish there is.
Yeah, it's down.
Oh,
yeah.
It's kind of a creamy white, which is related to the architecture on the two buildings. It's a kind of balance between the two.
Okay, and then just a follow-up quick, so is it's shining directly up, or is it kind of angled to capture a lot of the underside?
So the fixtures are gonna be at these two sills, so the sills directly below, and they're gonna have a snoop or a visor, which will literally angle the light. It's actually a fairly simple thing to do. We know we have residents to the west of us, so we're very conscious of that, so that's kind of how it's intended. And it's not, it's not down at this level, it's, about 10 or 12 feet below the surface lens light.
Thank you.
Suzanne.
Let's get back to the bridge here. So you made the presentation about how the bridges are the base of the bridges and the base of the bridges are part of the contextual design element of it, and that's one of the elements that is interesting. What is the design element of that? You spoke that it mirrors the buildings in terms of the color, but is it a wave? What am I seeing? There doesn't seem to be, it seems quite foreign from the Renaissance as well as the Beaux-Arts architecture. I didn't know whether that was a note or something you just completely didn't want to have anything to do with.
No, so, well, I didn't want, I love both those architecture.
Me too.
But, you know, I think it's, our approach is to contrast them with an optimized structure. And what carbon fiber allows us to do, and with the computational analysis of the structure, is to optimize the material and sculpt the underside. So that kind of shape that you're seeing is a reflection of the forces needed within the bridge to span that. And the advantage of using the high performance materials like carbon fiber, as you saw in the section, is that we can compress and thin the deck. And then we can also, as we said, we can sculpt it, we can optimize that. And we like that because the cast nature, so it's a fabric that gets cast, is similar in a way to how the terracotta is cast on the existing building. It's not a replica, it's not mimicking it, but it's a reference in a way. It's a cast material, but we're sculpting it based on the structural forces within the deck.
Are there, what kind of emergency provisions or so forth? Do you?
So it's fully sprinkled. It is designed for structural resilience. So should there be a very unlikely event that one of the panels, I mean, it's a multi-layered glass, right? If one of the panels was to break, there is structural redundancy so that it can still support the weight, and design of the structure is so that none of the panels can is the single reliance on the structure, if that makes sense, right? So like it's designed so that the glass, if one panel breaks, which is very unlikely, it can be replaced and the bridge can still stay in place. But as Kaz said, it's also designed, the bridge is designed as a component, basically. It could be it's fully sort of enclosed by itself now, so but it's structurally completely sound. Does that make sense?
It does, it does.
Okay. Any other questions, Suzanne?
I was only gonna just ask about these lovely water tanks. So you're repurposing them, or what happens to the historic water tanks?
Yes, so Alex Aguilera from TBG Architecture. So the two existing wooden water tanks are going to be disassembled and relocated.
And reassembled.
Good.
Yeah. I mean, they're not gonna be metal, they're not gonna be
No, actually.
fiberglass, they're gonna be.
This is the historic advantage of wooden water tanks, that they can be taken down.
We're all for our water tanks.
Yes.
Yeah.
Just actually on that side of the design, can you speak to the cladding of the western and south facade of the addition?
Yes, certainly. Actually, I'm just going to read into this thinking.
Can you continue to circulate this?
Well, Andrea's going to be.
Is that the walls? Is that the base?
This is the actual.
That's
glass.
Yeah, but I think
These are the
it's not
walls,
the
yeah,
whole
and the
thing.
roof.
The white is the underside.
Go to the
Like that white little metal chip this thing here.
It's not gonna hold anything. Look, it's actually just.
I think that's just the finish.
The thing is the insulation, but this is representing the grid.
But you really.
Okay, let's make sure that we all have the
Yes,
same
so what is-
conversation. So right now, the question
this
is, I'm sorry.
Yes.
The question is not this. We can get to this. The question is the finish on the sort of like secondary facades of the addition.
So the finishes of the western, of the secondary facade, the western end of the structure, are designed to maintain a sort of a warm aesthetic in keeping with the roof terrace, because this will be a planted landscape roof terrace. And so the material of the deck itself is concrete plank. And then the lower cladding in gray is a terracotta-like exterior panel. So it is a cementitious terracotta panel. And then the upper portion of the two-story structure is an anodized bronze finish.
Okay, speak to the brick wall.
The brick walls are on the operational sort of interior courtyard faces.
Okay,
On the inside faces of the parapets. And those are in keeping with the sort of nature of the interior brick courtyard.
okay. Okay, all right, thank you.
Not visible from anywhere except for the interior.
Got it. Okay, lots of questions on this, so,
That's all right.
what are we
Yeah,
looking
Dave, why
at?
don't you, can you just explain what we're doing with the
So
bridge?
that is a sample of laminated with insulate. So the walls and roof are insulated too. They're structural glass, 3 layers of half-inch laminated
What,
glass.
you wanna
You wanna
pass it
show
to Craig so that- oh, they-
This
Okay.
sample has 2. And as I said, if we had bought the 3, the 3.5 inch, it's very, very heavy. But this would, we would have a frit on the roof, so this represents the roof frit on the roof panels, and on the side panels, we have the anti-bird frit. Birth safe, which is required by code on the walls.
Can we actually put the
Bridge up.
rendering of the bridge up?
So this just represents like insulated attached to structure. The glass is low iron, has a low E coating on it for energy, and the bridge as designed has photovoltaic so that it meets the energy code requirements of local law 7.
So how would you describe the shape of the structure? Is it if you look at it in section, is it a square or is it arched?
No, it's arched. We're shaping, we're sculpting it.
Are you talking about, sorry, you're talking about the
glass.
The glass is a rectangle.
Okay.
And structurally, the way that's working is the glass is taking really the span and it's dealing with wind load and then load this way. And then the deck is really just so people walk across it, but it's carrying the mechanical systems. But if one of those panels fails, the deck is integrated into it, if that makes sense.
Okay, all right. Let me go to Brad and then Suzanne. Yeah, Brad, go
Two
ahead.
questions. Why is the top different than the sides?
We want to provide some sort of shading on the roof, but also roof gets kind of dirty, so you generally stick a frit on top of it so that it minimizes the dirt. So that's the difference.
Okay.
And why we do that.
Second question, you said this bridge is sprinklered?
Yes.
And where is the sprinkler in the bridge?
So is it shown on that? It's up in one of the corners in the
So showing that
left-hand
section.
corner. Yeah, Andreas will show you there.
Runs along one of
So
the
hanging,
sides.
runs along one of the sides.
Be a pipe running along. one of the sides.
Simple pipe.
Okay.
Clipped into the joint.
Is there framing at the top corners of the bridge
No.
that holds that in? So it's just mounted on the glass
So,
or?
it's basically a clip that clips on the glass and then comes through the joint and then picks up the pipe.
Okay.
The rails that you're seeing on the side, there are these lines, those are on the top. And that's just we're draining the roof, right? So we're capturing the water, so it doesn't drip over the side.
Just one quick follow-up, temperature control.
So it's fully tempered, meaning it's air conditioned, it's cooled and heat is based on.
And where is the source of this?
So if you go to the section,
sections are-
Andrew,
In the deck.
yeah, it's inside the deck. So the deck is a lot like it's basically a hole of a boat, kind of, if you think about it, right?
Okay.
And then
Got it.
with like a carbon fiber racing boat, basically.
Yeah.
But this is
45, I think.
Okay. Okay, I got it. Yeah,
Very,
we're,
buried in the water.
got it. Suzanne,
Have you ever built one of these things before? Does something like this exist anywhere in the world?
carbon fiber bridges exist.
Well, one like this.
Not quite like this. Have we built structural glass buildings like this? The TKTS Tepson's Times Square is an all glass structure that we did. It's been around since 2008.
So this improves on that.
This, takes it to a little bit extra, yes. I mean, these are large pieces of glass. There are kind of 2 people in the world that can make this currently. 2 different fabricators that can make it.
and where are they coming from?
There's one in Germany, Sadek, and the other one is North Glass in China. And they're the ones that do all of Apple's glass. And the advancements in glass basically are a result of what Steve Jobs did to, the Apple stores.
Okay, Kevin.
Just
given that it's glass, one aspect of the aesthetic is gonna be the number of people crossing this thing through the sky every day. Can you speak just roughly how many people need to kind of go back and forth? Because it seems like the two buildings have different functions.
Yeah.
Is this just a bridge that's gonna be used once in a while, or is there gonna be a heavy?
No, I think there'll be two patterns, right? There'll be a pattern of individual crossings, which is just when staff go from one building to another, which typically is, periodic. I don't have an exact number, but like we think about during the day, how many times you might go and see a colleague across the street, or see a couple of people go to see a colleague across the street. And then there will be those what I would call, I guess, peak volume things, which is where, so for example, we have a scientific convening, there's 160 scientists in the new conference space. And then we have a breakout session where we're going to break those people up into 4 or 5 groups, and they're going to spend an hour and a half doing some modeling in the breakout space. So they're going to leave the auditorium, they're going to cross the bridge, they're going to come to the space on the 162 side of the street, and then they're going to break out into groups and do some work there for an hour or two, and then they're going to go back for another plenary session. So you'll have both a kind of periodic flow of individual crossings, and then you'll have these periods of time where we'll have an event and there'll be people crossing, kind of more in a group, right? And that's part of the logistics of this whole thing, is why we need to join these spaces together. A lot of the convening that we do, we pioneered this model in science funding called collaborations, and that's where we basically fund 9, 10, 11 different institutions to work on one common problem. So you might have 10 or 15 scientists from each institution, and these are all around the world, and we bring them to the foundation 2 or 3 times a year for 2 to 3 days to catch up with each other, share the results, anchor the collaboration. You think about, scientists are not the easiest cats to herd. So if you think about taking like that 150, 160 people from a plenary session and then getting them into a breakout space, that's why one core reason why we need to be able to cross efficiently and get quickly to those breakout spaces on the other side of the street. It's one reason. Thanks for the question.
Can I do a follow-up to that? Just quick. So with regards to how you were answering the question on your question on the east side and the expansion on the roof, you designed for capacity then and not for sight lines. Is that correct? Like if, for example, you were to say, this could fit 150 people. I'm just curious, how did you just design for capacity? You said my goal was 170. Did you think about the minimizing the space in order to eliminate all sight lines in this historic district? Just curious.
We thought about maintaining what we would call reasonable sightlines, in the sense that it's very minimal exposure, and at that we have to be quite far away. The normal process of standing on the streetscape looking up, none of the structure is visible, either from 21st or from 5th Avenue. And so in order to show sightlines, we've actually gone,
Beyond.
way far up into Madison Square Park.
Yeah, I saw. Okay.
Right. And if you look at the photograph of standing in the park, the shot to the right of that is a telescopic zoom in order to show that visibility. So I wouldn't say, programmatically, the number of people that we can host is, that the space should host is related to the programmatic need. And I'll say that the sideline, if you see here on the screen, the left-hand photo is the realistic view of a normal person standing in the park. And then on the right hand is, you'd have to have a telephoto lens to actually see the gap between the buildings.
Okay, thank you.
Can I just add to that, just in terms of visibility, just in terms of sort of context? I think the visibility of this edition is actually less than what the committee saw in 2017 on the roof of 162, and you all were comfortable with that. This district has seen many 1- and 2-story additions, and I think to Alex's point, you need to work pretty hard to actually see this. So I'll just.
I'm confused. There's an addition on 162?
Yeah, there's a rooftop addition that came before you in 2017, and you all supported that addition. It was visible. We went to a public hearing, it was visible.
Okay.
And
Actually,
showing
it's on the upper right hand
Yeah,
side.
he said
you
that.
can see a piece of it. That's all of it.
Oh, yeah.
That was raised. There's probably more visibility there.
Okay.
So this is, in comparison, quite modest.
All right, I want to open up to members of the public for comments and questions. We will start with anyone in the room who wishes to speak. Any members of the public in the room who want to speak to this particular application? Okay, so
Are we done with our members' questions?
do you have more? No, do you have more questions?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, go ahead.
I just wanted to ask the length. Is it 90 feet long? 63 feet. How do you explain that? If the width of the streets are supposed to be 60 feet, right?
Yeah.
And then 50, from building line to building line, so it's 63. Got it.
Okay, any other questions? Any, Mark?
There's some questions.
Yeah, from members of the public, definitely, but I want to make sure that members of the committee have had a chance to ask all their questions. Have we exhausted all the questions? Okay, all right, let's open up to members of the public. So there's no one in the room for members of the public who wish to speak on this particular application. So we are moving to members of the public who are with us remotely, and the first speaker is Carlo Casa.
Do you want to allow him to allow it?
Yes. And you are permitted to speak, Carlo.
Great, thank you. My name is Carlo Casa, as mentioned. I'm the Director of Policy and Research at the New York Building Congress. The New York Building Congress represents over 500 constituent organizations and over 250,000 skilled tradespeople and professionals dedicated to the growth and prosperity of our city. The Simons Foundation is a cherished member of our organization. I urge you to support and approve agenda item number 4, the application by the Simons Foundation for a sky bridge connecting 165th Avenue with 162 Fifth Avenue, including a rooftop addition. As champions for advancing construction best practices and expanding New York City's economic opportunities, we understand the value that both the Simons Foundation and Flatiron Institute provides and how this project will further enhance and improve their work. The Simons Foundation is a major catalyst for economic growth and activity in the city, contributing millions of dollars annually to the hospitality industry, including New York City restaurants, New York City hotels, New York City airlines. This support is essential to our citywide pandemic recovery. The Simons Foundation has also taken great strides to be considerate of the community and the Ladies Miles Historic District. Its expert architects and engineers have designed a skybridge and rooftop addition that respects the aesthetics of the neighborhood and its historic character. The choice of materials for the skybridge was carefully planned to blend architectural eras of both buildings and include subtle lighting to avoid visual noise. The proposed bridge is well designed, limited in visibility, and takes great care not to distract from the historic features of either building or the district. In fact, the rooftop addition will really not be visible at all from the street. We celebrate the Simons Foundation's ability to develop an addition to the built environment that is as functional as it is beautiful, and it will add value in ways that all New Yorkers can benefit. After reviewing the Simons Foundation's proposal and understanding their design philosophy, we're proud to express our support for the Sky Bridge and rooftop addition, and we call on you to vote in support of its approval. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Ben Dubbin Thaler. Ben, you are permitted to speak.
Okay, hello everybody. Thank you so much to the community board for this public service you're doing for us on a Tuesday night. My name is Ben Dubin Thaler, and I am the founder and executive director of a nonprofit organization based here in Manhattan called BioBus. I founded the nonprofit in 2007 after I finished my PhD in biophysics at Columbia. And the mission of BioBus is to work with kindergarten through 12th grade students as well as college students to help them achieve their full scientific potential. And we work primarily in communities that have been excluded from the scientific community, from the professional scientific community. And we this year will have reached our 400,000th student, primarily working with students on board our namesake bio buses, which are mobile science labs full of hundreds of thousands of dollars of microscopes that travel from school to school, including in Community Board District 5. Simon's support has been transformational for my organization, BioBus. I started in 2007, and the Simons Foundation started funding us in 2014. They've made over $4 million in investments and helped us reach hundreds of thousands of students, really empowering the next generation of scientists who are going to be working and living in Community Board District 5. The other piece of the Simons Foundation support has been the convenings at their Flatiron Institute building, and have bringing myself together with other executive directors of science education nonprofits in the city and across the country. This kind of community building is what the Simons Foundation has really been about for BioBus. So this Skybridge is incredibly important for myself and my peers in the nonprofit space to be able to convene, to be able to brainstorm, to be able to do our work more effectively, and help young scientists in communities Board District 5 and across the city to reach their full scientific potential. So I'm very much in support of this project, and I hope you will vote to approve it. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Mikako Murphy. Mikako, you are allowed to speak.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me all right?
Yes, we can.
Great. Thank you. Thank you so much, CB5. I am usually presenting in front of the Transportation Committee, so this is a new committee for me. If you don't know me, I am Mikako Murphy. I am the Senior Planning Associate at the Flatiron Nomad Partnership, and I will be representing the partnership tonight. I would also like to share a testimony from the partnership that we have also submitted in writing to the city. As you all have already heard, for the past couple minutes, the Simons Foundation is a great and wonderful stakeholder in the Flatiron neighborhoods. And as the local business improvement district for both the Flatiron and Nomad neighborhoods, we really understand the value of the Simons Foundation and the Flatiron Institute and what they provide the district and also beyond. So we stand behind the proposal to connect their headquarters, and let me get into a few of the reasons why we do so. In their proposal, the Simons Foundation has really taken steps to be considerate of the community and also the urban fabric. With all of their architects and engineers that we've heard from tonight, they have designed a skybridge and a rooftop addition that really respects the aesthetics of the neighborhood and also the Ladies Mile District historic character. The proposed glass bridge has been designed to preserve sightlines and create minimal light and sound impacts. The Skybridge project and also the rooftop addition will better accommodate the Simons Foundation staff, in addition to thousands of annual visitors, and really making an impact, a positive impact for economic growth in local restaurants, hotels, and retail, which is really what us as the bid is here for. Additionally, the Simons Foundation has augmented the Flatiron Nomad Partnership's neighborhood improvement efforts, as well as our community outreach. In the past year and also the previous year, they've graciously opened their auditorium as well as their rooftop on 162 5th for our annual meeting. That's an event that brings stakeholders together to celebrate the partnership's past year of work. So we are very grateful to them for doing that. The foundation has also been a very loud proponent for our district-wide sidewalk planter program, with 160 and 162 5th Avenue becoming the first location in the district to host 12 planters. Please check it out and take a look if you haven't already. They are beautiful. And yes, we really look forward to the Simons Foundation's continued neighborhood involvement as they bring their facilities to new heights. So we are proud to express our support for the Skybridge and Rooftop Addition, and respectively ask for your vote in support of its approval. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And the next speaker is Deepika Sani. Deepika, you're permitted to speak.
Hi, everyone. This is Deepika Sani, and I'm speaking on behalf of the Madison Square Park Conservancy. Similar to everyone else on this call, we also have a letter of support that we've submitted in writing, and I will share it with you here today as well. Madison Square Park Conservancy supports the Simon Foundation's proposed rooftop addition and Sky Bridge. As a nonprofit organization that raises 100% of the funds to operate and program Madison Square Park, we appreciate the value that strong institutions like the Simons Foundation and Flatiron Institute provide to our neighborhood. The Simons Foundation is a catalyst for economic growth and activity in the Flatiron Nomad neighborhood, as well as the city at large. And we know from working with them that they are eager to expand their capacity. They receive thousands of visitors annually for multi-day scientific lectures and workshops, many of which are open to the public. And their hope is to have a larger space that will not only support their mission, but also accommodate community uses, such as the Conservancy's horticulture program. As community partners, the Simons Foundation has worked with our horticulture team to bring scientists into the park to lead free public programs. Last spring, they partnered with us on programming for our Geometry of Flowers exhibition, and they will host viewing opportunities in the park during the upcoming solar eclipse in April 2024. With respect to their proposed additions, the Simons Foundation invited a number of neighborhood institutions, including us, on tours of their buildings and have taken strides to educate us about the design and why the expansion is needed. We realize that additions like this, particularly a Sky Bridge, and particularly when impacting a historic neighborhood, are subject to close scrutiny. But we feel that the rooftop addition respects the existing building and that the Sky Bridge would not detract from the historic character of our neighborhood. They have chosen materials that work beautifully with each building's unique historical architecture and that are visually appealing in nature. After reviewing the Simons Foundation's proposal and understanding their mission-oriented needs and the justification for their expansion and design choices, Madison Square Park Conservancy supports their proposal for a rooftop addition and Sky Bridge, and we hope the community board will vote to support it as well. Thank you.
Thank you. And that concludes the public session unless someone else wishes to speak, and we can use the raise hand function to indicate so. But at this moment, I do not see any other members of the public who wish to speak. If anyone is in attendance and wishes to speak on this particular application, you can use the raise hand function. Okay, seeing none, that concludes the public session. Before we move to business session, I want to make sure that there are no outstanding questions from members of the committee. Okay, all right. So let's move to business session, and just to frame the conversation a little bit. Basically, we have two items that we need to comment and weigh on. Because they are filed as two separate applications, we can actually decide to do two separate resolutions that would be totally appropriate. Obviously, to state it for the record, we have a rooftop addition, and then we have a Sky Bridge. So let's get going, and then we can decide which topic is more pressing. Brett.
So to start off, I think it was a great presentation. I think it was very thorough, very clear. I also think that we have learned from the public comment and also from the presentation as well, what a great kind of neighbor and community member the Simons Foundation is. So I want to stress that as sort of my first point. I think for maybe the easier of the two, I think the rooftop addition, while visible, takes steps to mitigate that and is fairly minimal, and also kind of obscured behind a fairly large parapet. So I really don't have any issues with the rooftop addition. The bridge, I think, is fairly clean and simple and elegant. I don't think you could get less of a bridge up there beyond what's there now. I have a little bit of a concern of the way it meets the buildings in some of the locations, particularly on 160, where it kind of slices that cornice and you get that kind of very clear separation. But all in all, I think it's kind of well done. And I guess maybe this is a question, not a question for you, Leila, but something that I'm struggling with, which is kind of, I don't think that I was kind of convinced of the need for that bridge. That it seems like it was primarily kind of for convenience or for a feature for these convening spaces, but not necessarily kind of vital to the use of these buildings that at the end of the day, they could always go downstairs and cross the street and come back up. And so I get that there's sort of an efficiency to it, but for me, it's a fairly high bar to cross to get a sky bridge for sort of convenience. So that's something that I'm still struggling with. And then the kind of ever looming threat of us creating a precedent for approving a sky bridge in a historic district that then we are then held, it comes back to haunt us later on when we get one that maybe is less minimally designed or less elegant in the future.
Yeah. Thank you, Brad. I'm going to jump in and share my comments. I think I really echo what Brad said. We really want to commend the Simons Foundation. They are a really important, critical part of our community. We're very happy that you are at CB5. We're very happy that you are into amazing and beautiful historic buildings in a very significant historic district. I'm sure that you chose those buildings for that very reason. I know that you value the nature and the power and the quality of this historic district, and we thank you for it. You've been a great neighbor. You've been in front of this committee multiple times, and although we don't always agree with what you're proposing, we certainly respect the level of quality that you bring to this community. Let's deal with the easy part. I think that the rooftop addition is non-controversial. We understand the need. We support actually the growth of the foundation. I think it's a good thing. It's a healthy sign that you need to grow. So we're really happy about that. The treatment to do it is sympathetic with the historic district. And we appreciate that the visibility is minimized, and I think in the end we can live with what is visible, and I think it's elegantly done. I also struggle to see the need for the bridge. I don't know that you're really solving a major issue as much as scientists are cats that need to be herded. I think that they're still able to ride an elevator or two, but more importantly, the element itself, as well designed as it is and as technologically advanced as it is, creates a precedent that I think this district cannot take. The way I look at it is it's almost a folly. It's something like really awe-inspiring, but at the same time, for that very reason, I think it is not contextual. The issue that we have with this district, and really the question that is in front of us, is once again not whether we like the design. I think that we will all agree that this is really award-worthy design. It's incredible. It's cutting edge. It should be on the front page of some publication. But does it need to be built? And does it need to be built at that particular location? This is where I think very clearly the answer is no. And once again, it is not a reflection on the merits of the design, but simply on the contextuality and the appropriateness to have that particular element at that particular location. I think in all fairness that the removal of the existing fabric, because it has been replaced in the past, does not mean that it is any less historic. So although the cornice is not the original cornice, it is yet a very historic feature of the building, and it's going to be majorly impacted. As much as we appreciate that, the work is entirely reversible, also for the nature of the revocable consent that is needs to be granted. the reality is that, there's a permanence to it. And certainly, we don't want to approve an element that is meant to be removed, a couple of years later. We really want additions in our district to be there to stay because we love them, because we find them appropriate and contextual. Unfortunately, I feel that, this particular element, its presence, its visibility, the way it's going to glow in the dark, for all these reasons, and the major points of impaction that they have on each building, make them unfortunately not appropriate. So, yeah. So.
I think this proposal is highly respectful of the historic nature and the landmark designation. And it moves us towards the city of yes that we talked about so much, the greening of the roof, the solar panels, magnificent. We need to do much more of that. And the integrated sky bridge is consonant with the district. The innovation in architecture and engineering is what this district has been about. Flatiron is a great symbol of that. I think this is very fitting. And then what we're really solving here, as they've done so brilliantly, is you've created an integrated campus between these two buildings. You don't have a campus when you're going down the elevator, you're crossing the street against traffic, but you now have a convening space up in the sky, and you're crossing this magnificent bridge. And is that a dining area across in the?
No, we're really.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. But the point is, if you are building a campus by doing this, and it's a magnificent proposal. I think very, very respectful of landmarks designation. I would support it completely.
Sachi.
I would also vote in favor of a proposal that includes the bridge as well as the roof addition. I was really convinced by the part of the presentation that made the case for bridges in other parts of the city, and the purpose in our landmarks code, it specifically calls out strengthening the economy of the city, the economic, political, and architectural history. I think that this plan really well integrates both the bridge and the roof addition into that. Further, I think that the applicant is proposing to put just an ungodly amount of money into this. And so for us to say, for me to say, as a volunteer who happens to live in CB5, for me to say, I don't think you need it is, I guess I don't presume to, I don't feel like I have the expertise to be able to make that claim, especially given the words from really dedicated community members that add so much to our city, saying that it's a really big need for them. So to me, it's important that the proposal includes, for me personally, for my vote, include both the rooftop addition and the bridge.
Suzanne.
I'm very torn here, because I understand, I think that one thing I think that's really interesting about the bridge, rooftop, fine, with the bridge is the optics. I deal with optics and marketing, and so I'm very curious, and we're not going to talk about it, but on a world stage, in terms of innovation, that also had to do a little bit with my question in terms of have this ever been done before. So for New York, and we're all for New York, this will get a lot of press. And the Simons Foundation, as they are scientists and they are innovators, this is a really huge example of innovation. And so optically, on a world stage, this is sort of a sampling of what they can do and what they stand for. And for that reason, I find it alluring. Yes, I know the businesses, the hotels, those kind of stuff, but on a larger scale, I just think the US needs to come up with a glass manufacturer, but that's a whole other story. But so I'm sort of leaning towards it in that way, just in pro New York, environmentally, et cetera, and so forth. I don't think it's contextually right for the area. That really is my issue. I definitely don't want to start a precedent, so I'm very confused here, but I just wanted to speak to this sort of larger optic on the Sky Bridge and what it means for New York. I myself, I don't know, I know a lot of people, I know you spoke in your School of Autism, there may be a lot of people that will not feel like they want to cross on this bridge.
So.
But that's another thing.
No,
But anyway,
yeah,
so
and I think
I'm
we
gonna
need-
side
we need
with,
to
but I'm gonna
redirect-
side with
we need-
probably approving the Sky Bridge.
We need to redirect the conversation here because we really need to be germane to the application.
Yeah, so I would say
So
that I
this
would
is an
probably.
application, we're not the innovation committee, we're not even the land use committee, and that is actually going to come to land use. We are the landmarks committee. The question that is in front of us is, in this particular historic district, in this particular historical context, is this architectural feature contextual and appropriate? That is the only question that is in front of us.
Okay.
Even the matter of taste is not what is in front of us.
Well,
And I
thank you,
know it
Leila.
is
Yes.
very, very hard.
Then
And I
contextually, I
know
would
that,
say
you
no.
know,
Yeah.
and quite frankly, you know, if this organization was, you know, a bad actor in our district, this should not be taken into consideration. For the same reason, you know, we praise them, we mention the fact that they're actually a very significant partner, but in the end, this has no merits on the application. And we have to treat every applicant the same, whether we're sympathetic with what they do or not sympathetic with what they do.
Yeah.
So we really need to, you know, stick to the application and speak to the application. So the question is not whether it is, you know, great innovation. The question is not whether we like the design or it is, you know, cutting edge, or the question is it appropriate for this particular historic district that takes its architectural character from, you know, the early, you know, late 19th century and early 20th century. So, you know, we really need to stay focused on that. Barbara.
I'm also torn. I mean, I think for me, there are issues in terms of the design of the bridge itself, but I do think that it as an element that didn't exist before, it does set a very uncomfortable precedent for me of adding this piece. And I understand that there are precedents, but there are not a lot of them in New York City in terms of adding a bridge after a building was built. So for me, that is the biggest question against approving this, is the precedent that it sets. I hear what you're saying. I would say I would even detach the issue of whether they need it or not, honestly. I think that actually isn't even germane to our discussion either. I would say it's not for us to judge whether we think it's appropriate. I mean, I am not as orthodox about historic. You know, I'm okay with inserting something modern into an historic district, although I don't feel completely comfortable with this insertion because of where it is, because of I don't think it will disappear quite as much as one would like it to. So that's. But I have no problem with the other questions. That's easy.
Next, Kevin.
Yeah, first of all, I'll pile on their comments. I'm a huge fan of Jim Simons. I read the Zuckerberg book. I'm, you know, kind of know what you guys do. Huge fan, but you know, at the same time, I'm conflicted because the district is landmarked for a reason, and it has to be kind of consistently, aesthetically consistent. And you know, I just think about what we approved or denied earlier today, or earlier this evening. You know, we denied an applicant from having giant glass doors because it didn't have edges. You know, now we're going to approve a glass tunnel in the sky. Like those two things don't line up with me. So you know, I'm fine with the rooftop addition. I think I would have been more amenable to the bridge had it resembled one of the architecture styles of one of the two buildings. Then it would have just been a question of, is a sky bridge appropriate, not whether or not the style fits the district. But anyway, that's where I
Yeah, thank you, Kevin.
Believe it or not, I am conflicted on this one. I'm usually the guy who comes out in favor of all the new stuff, but you know, it is a very uncomfortable precedent. But the bridge would bring a positive message to the area of life and looking to the future. I'm very uncomfortable with cutting into those two buildings. But on the other hand, that bridge will bring a liveliness to those two buildings. Is it needed? Is it a folly? Yeah, it is a folly. But I'm, quite frankly, very torn. It would be a cooling business in the neighborhood. Cutting into those buildings is sort of horrifying.
Chuck,
I just want to speak briefly to precedent. I understand precedent, but we don't have to decide every future application when we decide this one. We're deciding this application now, and every application in the future will be different. And so, yes, someone could point to precedent, but someone else could point back to say it's different. I agree with Zool on this one. I think this is pretty striking. I think it sends a great signal. I think it is contextual in the sense that it is not contextual. It bridges both buildings and it says, here I am, and I'm an addition to this district. And I support it.
wait. Let other people speak. Any other comments? Tony?
Sure. Rooftop addition, I think it's fantastic and minimally visible. The bridge, as with many of you, I am conflicted. My first concern that Brad brought up first is that it is cutting into the cornice, and just visibly that really stuck out as odd. And then, of course, the removal of the material, which again, even though it's replacement material, we do deem as historic once it's part of the landmark building. All the examples we saw were more in the middle of the building, connecting the centers of buildings together, which seemed to go a little bit better. That seems really odd to me. The lighting underneath it also is interesting, where we're looking at it during the day, it's a glass structure. When I'm scared to death to walk across, but a glass structure that's blending in during the day, which is fantastic. I kind of like that concept that it's not, screaming to you, but at night we're kind of putting focus on it. And I found that to be probably going in a different direction than maybe we should. But the bridge itself, I think the Ladies Mile Historic District is not a place for something like this. As cool and as amazing as it is, it does not fit. It's not contextual. The materials are, in my opinion, not appropriate for those two particular buildings. It's night and day, which we're on board with sometimes. We do like the contrast. With this, I don't think it gives a nod to what's already existing in the historic district. I will vote no.
Very briefly, because
So our discussion is about landmarks appreciation in our district. So think about this sky bridge as an educational tool. And these young people, students, scientists, staff, visitors of all sorts crossing this. And now they're seeing up front the skyline, the roof line of our district, these magnificent cornices, these magnificent the terracotta pieces, I believe, this masonry. This is an absolute opportunity for us to really appreciate the landmark quality of our district.
all right. Any other comments? There are. For your first meeting.
Yeah, that's a lot.
It's a treat.
I feel like I don't need to speak on the terrace or on the roof, but I mean, I feel like the precedent aside, I agree with the point you made on precedent. I don't think that we necessarily need to decide based on precedents, but the fact that the merits of the bridge itself, I feel like lie in the message and the significance, not necessarily in its utility. Its utility sort of secondary to that. When we're thinking about implementing a bridge that we all want to stay there, we don't want it to be sort of taken down a couple years later. We should think about its historical and contextual significance, not necessarily its utility, how many people are going to use it. So I think in that sense, I do support it, but at the same time, points brought up about how different it's going to look in the day versus the nighttime. And also the fact that it provides such deep contrast to the neighborhood itself sort of pushes me towards not wanting it to be present in the neighborhood, even though I can recognize it's sort of forging a path towards the future. I'm not necessarily sure that this is the specific place and way in which to do that.
Yeah, thank you. All right, I think we're ready to take this to a vote, and we may see where we land.
I move
We need a motion.
I know we approved.
Motion to approve. Second.
Okay.
Can we split them?
Yeah, can we split?
Yeah, let's
So
split 'em.
let's split them. I think let's start with the bridge. No, let's start with the bridge. Yeah, the rooftop is
Rooftops easy. Okay, so we are voting to approve the bridge. Fritz,
No.
Hader,
No.
Harris,
Come back to me.
okay, Hirschberg,
No.
Johnson,
That's gonna be a no.
Quebec,
No.
Augisico,
No.
Miller,
Yes.
I myself am a no, Spandorf,
No.
Stamberg,
Yes.
Takahashi Ryle,
Yes.
Testa,
No.
Zilkowitz.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, motion fails, I believe, going to.
Okay,
Yeah,
so,
motion fails.
Tony, can you make a motion?
Motion to deny?
I can't second.
Seconded.
Let's take this one to a vote.
Okay, Chris,
Yes.
Hader,
Yes.
Harris,
I'm sorry, what are we?
we're voting
We're
to
voting
deny
to
the
deny
bridge.
the application.
to reverse it.
The exact
Yeah.
opposite of what we just voted for.
Reverse everybody's vote?
Well, let's take it to a
I
vote.
think I have to
just
say, I think I have to make everyone say that thing out loud.
Okay, so
So no,
no.
okay. Hirschberg,
I approve the denial.
so yes. Johnson,
I approve the denial.
right, Quebec,
Yes.
Augisico.
Yes.
Miller,
No.
I myself am a yes, Spandorf,
Yes.
Stamberg,
No.
Takahashi Ryle,
No.
Testa,
Yes.
Zilkowitz.
I deny the denial.
Motion passes.
Question.
Can I
Right.
ask, is there a proposal that could exist, a deny unless? Because there are so many folks that.
We just voted, so I think this is close.
For next time, you want to ask a
Yeah.
question for next
We
time?
can,
For
we
next
can-
time.
We can discuss it after the
Mm,
meeting is adjourned. Okay.
We have another.
All right. Yes, we do have another item.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Do we want to vote?
We have to vote on the
the
roof.
the
Sorry,
roof,
sorry,
all right.
addition.
That's
We
right.
need a
Motion to
motion.
approve the roof.
Okay, all
Second.
right, second.
Frizz,
Yes.
Let's leave on a good
Hader.
note.
Yes.
Harris.
Yes.
Hirschberg,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Quebec.
Yes.
Augisico,
Yes.
Miller,
Yes.
I myself am a yes, Spandorf,
Yes.
Stamberg,
Yes.
Takahashi Ryle,
Yes.
Testa,
Yes.
Zilkowitz.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay.
All
right.
Sure. So unanimous, so that's 14,000 for the addition. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 5,000 for the denial for the bridge.
Okay.
Thank you all.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Stay warm.
Looks like you can't escape it. All right, we have one more item on the agenda. This is an application for Central Park, a playground at West 85th Street. And thank you so much to the team of applicants for your patience. You're joining us online. You're the smart ones. It's boiling hot in this room. So I hope you're in a temperature controlled environment right now. I will just, give it to you, guys, ladies, to tell us all about it.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'm in a freezing cold basement, so a nice hot room sounds good. But that's okay. Good evening, everybody. My name is Diane Jackier. I am the Vice President for Program Management at the Central Park Conservancy. I'm joined by Nick Koster, who is our Vice President for Design, and Sandy Huber, who is the Senior Vice President for our Capital Projects team. So is it okay if I share my screen now?
Absolutely.
Okay,
Go
great.
ahead.
Great. Can everybody see the screen?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great, great. So we're here tonight to discuss the reconstruction of the West 85th Street Playground on the west side of Central Park. I'm quickly going to go through the project location, goals, and history of the site, and then I'm going to hand it over to Nick. So as you may know, the West 85th Street Playground, as the name suggests, is located on the west side of the park, just south of the West 86th Street transverse. West 85th Street is one of the 21 playgrounds primarily built in the 1920s and 30s during the Robert Moses era that ring the perimeter of the park. This is one of only 3 playgrounds at West 85th Street that hasn't been reconstructed in several decades. In 2011, the Conservancy created a framework for rebuilding the playgrounds called Plan for Play. There is a cover of one of those documents right here, and this sort of serves as our guidelines when we reconstruct our playgrounds. In the interest of time, I'm not going to read all of the goals that we have for this project, but just quickly want to highlight a few. We are looking to improve the relationship between the playground and the park, enhance the quality and variety of play experiences, maximize user accessibility, acknowledge the prominence of this playground within the Seneca Village site, and create accessible routes from the west side and to the West 84th Street playground. Here's a current picture of the playground. It's actually one of the largest playgrounds in the park. And over the years, a lot of the equipment has been removed as it's reached the end of its useful life. At this point, the playground is pretty empty, doesn't provide a lot of play value for the kids. So that is one of the reasons why we are moving forward with this project. As we started the process to redesign the playground, we were very aware of the context of where this playground is in the park. And we're taking our cues from the topography, geology, vegetation, circulation, and archaeology that are so important to both the history and future of this part of Central Park. A few photos here show some of the features we've been looking at for inspiration. There are a lot of rock outcrops, mature trees, and this is also one of the highest points of the park. The playground is also within the part of the park that was once known as Seneca Village, an African-American settlement that existed from 1825 to 1857 between 82nd and 89th Streets and 7th and 8th Avenues. The Conservancy is currently in the process of determining how to commemorate and interpret the significance of Seneca Village in Central Park. We've had several community meetings in the past year to discuss how we should do that. This is a picture from a really successful meeting that we had in the spring at the New York Historical Society. So we're going to continue the discussion about the interpretation and commemoration within the next year as well, and maybe a little bit longer as we determine how best to do that. Just to give a bit of history of this site and the playground itself, here we have an 1856 VA map. This shows the buildings and the churches that were part of Seneca Village, and we've overlaid the playground here just to give some perspective. The playground is this egg shape that we see right here. Next, we have an 1864 annual report map after Central Park was built that shows the drives and pathways that were created by Olmsted and Vaux. Again, we've overlaid the playground site onto this map just to orient everybody. And here we have a 1936 photograph when the playground was built. As you can see, it was really built as an open play playground, ringed with benches. It had several slides, a few swing sets, but otherwise it was pretty much just an open play field. In 1994, the Central Park Conservancy restored the part of the Conservancy restored part of West 85th Street Playground, which was the last time the playground was updated. This photo shows the timber frame equipment that was installed as part of that 1994 reconstruction, and a lot of it is what has been removed since it has reached the end of its useful life. This past summer, we started our outreach to the park users with our in-park surveys. For about 6 weeks, members of the Capital Projects team visited the playground 5 different times during different days of the week and different times of the day to personally interview playground users and their caregivers. We also had a link to our playground survey up on the in the playground itself and included it in 2 different Central Park Conservancy newsletters. Overall, we heard from more than 30 different users. All of this has provided us with great feedback from the people who use the playground on a daily basis and has shaped the design that we're going to show you tonight. So I'm now going to hand the presentation over to Nick to go over more of the details of what we're proposing.
Great. Thanks, Diane. Just confirming, can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Great. So the next slide. Starting with a plan looking at the context. The two primary paths of travel from the park perimeter to the playground are from 85th Street at Central Park West and from the West 84th Street playground, both of which are currently inaccessible due to steep slopes. The next two images highlight these conditions. The first, this is taken from Central Park West, highlights a steep path that will be regraded for accessibility as part of this project. The second image is a view taken crossing 85th Street from the Toll Family Playground, which is a similar condition. Next. So this is a view where those two paths converge at the entrance to the West 85th Street Playground. This is a Robert Moses era addition to the park, the design you're seeing here. Right now, it's currently largely used as a gathering space for tours that focus around Seneca Village. Next. Moving inside the playground, as Diane mentioned, this is unique. There's a very strong visual connection to the surrounding park from this playground compared to others. There are some very significant trees, both inside and adjacent to the playground, that will be preserved and protected and incorporated into the design. The next diagram highlights that this area of the park has quite a few existing opportunities for play. The majority of the Seneca Village landscape had rolling lawns and outcroppings that really facilitate play within them. Additionally, nearby we have the swings located in the Pinetum, the Diana Ross, and the Toll Family playgrounds. The images on the next slide highlight the various characteristics of those playgrounds in the adjacent landscape. The West 85th Street Playground is really unique with its visual openness and strong connection to its context. Next. So we're now going to zoom in and look at the existing, first the existing plan and then the proposed design. So the existing plan is comprised of two separate age groups of play that include play structures, a water feature, seating, and an extensive sand area. When restored, this playground will be for the 5 to 12 age group, and that's really to complement the Toll Family Playground just to the south, which is dedicated to the 2 to 5 age group. Next. We wanted to start by sharing with you this diagram that highlights the layout changes to the plan as we're proposing to reconfigure the layout of the existing playground to accommodate and address the unique features of the site. As Diane mentioned, with this being part of the Seneca Village area, extensive archaeology has been conducted and we'll be relocating the northeastern edge of the playground to clear a known foundation of one of the houses that existed here pre-park in the time of Seneca Village. The southern perimeter of the playground has adjusted bed to the north to locate the large oak trees that had been located inside the playground out into the landscape. And additionally, this move allows for the realignment of the playground entry, removing that Moses era path design and creating a more appropriately scaled gathering space within the landscape. And overall, the push and pull of the perimeter really aligns with the plan for play goal for this playground of integrating this playground into the park's landscape, with the new structures being really able to take advantage of those views. Next. Just a quick overlay of the existing and proposed footprints of the playground. The existing playground surface its surface itself is the pink, that's slightly smaller than the existing. However, we are adding a picnic area to the west side of the playground. It'll be within the fence line. This is a fairly popular feature that we've added in some of our other restored playgrounds. Now I'd like to share a bit more about the detailed design of the playground itself. So within the playground, we'll be including swings, tire swings, a large climber structure, a central water feature, and a variety of seating types. Currently, we're planning to remove the large sand area, really in favor of having more play equipment for this age group. Next. So the design intent of the playground features is to have a material character that really reflects the historic landscape character of this part of the park. And we're planning on doing this through the use of wooden play structures that evoke the mature trees found throughout this area and the use of boulders referencing the outcroppings within the landscape. Next. This is an image of the Conservancy has used wood and similar aesthetic on other recent playground restorations, like this climber structure that you see here at the East 96th Street playground, which was completed in 2019. Next. So this elements like the swings will also take on this material character like the rest of the play structures. Next. And the central water feature. This will incorporate boulders like the outcroppings found in the landscape. And finally, we'll conclude the presentation with an overall plan, and we look forward to hearing your comments.
Thank you very much for this presentation. Let's jump right in. I think everybody is quite ready to move this along. Questions from members of the committee? Yeah, Zul.
Yeah, what is the nature of the man-made ground materials?
The ground materials? Yeah, so there'll be the sort of the pink path color will be asphalt, and then the gray colors will be a playground surfacing.
And that playground surfacing, can you describe it? Does that allow for the drainage of water?
Yeah. So it'll be, we're working with a civil engineer to create drainage structures that will tie into the overall park drainage system.
Can you actually elaborate on the playground material? Is it this sort of like rubber-y type of surface?
Yeah, it's exactly. It's sort of that the fall protection material that is used. So if a child were to fall off of one of the structures, it's it's supportive of providing that protection.
Got it. Okay, thank you. Yeah, Suzanne.
Hi, is there a great presentation? Is there a fence around this? Or you'd be doing the fence, and is it
Yes,
in the wood?
Great question. Yeah, so I forgot to mention that currently there's a 7-foot-high fence, and in order to connect it more to the existing landscape and just in line with all of the other playgrounds that the Conservancy has restored, we'll be using a 4-foot-high fence, which with also that has greater visibility and transparency to it.
Okay, thanks.
Other questions? Sachi.
There's no like safety concerns about using rocks, especially with water features that might be slippery, or I guess I'm asking about the safety features of using boulders.
Yeah, so we're still working through the development of that, and that's something that we're definitely taking into consideration, making sure that it's designed fully to all of the current playground codes.
Cool.
Can you speak a little bit to the archaeological research that you have done and the structure of this house?
Sure.
Sandy, do you want to take that one?
Yeah, I can jump in. The Conservancy has been working with an archaeologist by the name of Richard Hunter for really over the last, I want to say 30 years. And, he's worked with us in a number of locations to map out sensitive areas of the park, and certainly here at Seneca Village. So we have mapped out all of the known structures that exist so that we can proceed with this project. And as Nick mentioned, kind of altering that footprint of the playground so that we know that we're not going to be disturbing anything. And certainly as we progress the work and the construction, they will be our advisors, and, I could really see them, they'll be on site as a presence too at some critical times during construction to make sure that everything progresses in a sensitive way.
Great, terrific. Thank you. Suzanne.
Just one other thing, you showed some pictures of the path, the walkways, and you had mentioned something about that you were going to deal with them because they were hilly or the terrain was a problem.
Oh yeah. Yep. You know what? And we had to sort of abbreviate the presentation, we had to remove the slide. So it's these two images here. So what we'll be doing here is regrading them and sort of lengthening out the distance of the grade change. And we've done it, I don't know if were you at the presentation that we gave for the two restroom structures about 2 months ago?
Yes.
Okay, so we had shared a precedent image there where we have a ramp with handrails, or really more a slope surface with handrails, and then a landing. And we've done it at numerous locations in the park. It's fairly minimal detail that has precedent in other locations throughout the park.
Yeah, Paula.
Yeah, Brad.
Is that what, if that in that final plan, is that what we're seeing, those sort of segments in that walkway? Is that
Correct, yes. Yeah, if we go back to the plan, that is exactly what you're seeing, that there'll be see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5 or 6 landings that'll really extend that surface out.
Okay, and does that involve the removal or relocation of any trees?
It does not, no.
Okay, other questions? Okay, I will open it up to members of the public. Do we have any members of the public who wish to speak? We still have members of the public for the record. Okay, so seeing no member of the public wishing to speak, we will move to business session where we discuss the matter. Comments? Barbara?
Looks good to me.
Amen.
Second? All right, I take that as a motion. Let's take this to a vote.
Okay, Frizz.
Yes.
Hader.
Yes.
Harris.
Yeah.
Hirschberg.
Yes.
Johnson.
Yes.
Quebec.
Yeah.
Logisico.
Yes.
Miller.
Yes.
Myself, I'm a yes. Spandorf.
Yes.
Stamberg.
Yes.
Takahashi Ryle.
Yes.
Testa.
Yes.
Zolkowitz.
Yes.
Great.
Awesome.
Before we leave, we need someone for this resolution.
Yes.
So we don't have anyone currently volunteered. This one came late to us. So does anyone want to volunteer on a very easy resolution?
I'll do it.
Okay. Thank you, Barbara.
Actually, Zara, I don't want to put you on the spot, and I know that your schedule is crazy busy, but do you have a little bit of bandwidth to work on the resolution with Barbara?
Yeah, sure.
Fantastic. Okay, so Barbara and Zara, you will work together on the
Sounds good.
resolution. Fantastic. Let me adjourn the meeting, but then I want to hear what Sachi was going to say. I really want to have this opportunity, but I want to do it, full procedure.
Procedural question.
Yes.
On the resolution, so I was just on 185th Avenue.